For several drivers, there lies one more chance to chase postseason eligibility as the sun shines over virtual South Florida in one final dash before the eliminator chase for the championship begins. It's live from beautiful South Florida and the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, where tonight the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to the next race in the SAAC Cup Series Season 4 campaign, race number 12 from Homestead-Miami. Always glad that you're joining us on these Thursday nights. It's been quite a busy week on the KBueno Racing Network, to say the least, and I've got two of my best friends with me alongside in the booth. Alongside Francisco Bacallao and our newest member of the team, Nate Polite, I am Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, it's so great to be down in South Florida, not only because you and I are hometown people, we love this track very much in real life and in the sim, but possibly the best stage to create the drama, the intensity of where the points lie for the top 16 that will get in, and those drivers 17th on back that may be pushed away to the side. And you also look at the drivers that are already locked into the eliminator chase format. While they do have their muscles relaxed a little bit, they still have to ride on a high of momentum. If they sink now at Homestead-Miami tonight, may give them their head a little bit further down as we get into that eliminator chase format. Again, all of those races highlighted in yellow on the right side of your screen, those are the races that will divide the 16 drivers into 6 that will fight for the championship at Auto Club Speedway later on this year. But Nate, I'll turn to you about this track. You were able to see the action at Phoenix Raceway last week. Obviously, this venue is very different. The stakes are very different, but we mentioned how tense drivers would be in fighting for their eligibility into the top 16. If you're anyone below that cut line right now, desperation is at an all-time high, no question. They've got to be really close. And we've seen a lot of these races come down to not single-digit margins, but like you said, Nate, a lot of big-time margins in which Bauman had to really creep up against Matthew Miles and try to make this a proper fight. It is enough points to which you are mathematically eligible to get into the top 16. It's not entirely insurmountable for those 17th and 18th, but further on back, it really does get dire. You're either going to need to win a race or just be the standout driver this evening and have some miracles go down your way in order to become a race winner. So now that we look into what was going down at Phoenix, now what things go down with tonight in the point standings, let's jump into the highlights from last week at the virtual Phoenix Raceway, and what a race it was. Starting at the green flag, Steven Maggio and AJ Hyder moving to the green flag, and there would already be trouble when Nate sideways at the exit of turn 2 Maggio would go. That would ring in the first of the many yellows we would see over the course of the night, and for the pole sitter then, and for a driver who won that race the season before, not a good start. It was all AJ Hyder at the front of this field. He would lead a majority of things throughout the opening sector, but all the way in the back from third, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, his car came to life. Rocketing around Connor Trafari, he would make his way over to second and nearly had a shot at the race leader until chaos rung at the exit of turn 2. Chris Lilly in his 53 car bangs off 2 other machines, ends up sideways on the outside wall, and that would bring out a yellow flag and bring the field to rest. And then all of this restart chaos, Francisco, it's not untypical to see these drivers go 3 and even 4 wide in the wide exit of turns 1 and 2, but obviously we bring about some of the trouble. But after that, long green flag stretches where all of the great racing came into play through the mid-pack.
Yeah, Phoenix can get so chaotic on these restarts with the dog leg, and utilizing it and merging back onto the racetrack for turn 1 is a very vital part, and you'll see that later on in this reel. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno is trying to go on a charge to capture his 5th win with arguably his biggest rival right there in Connor Trafarias. Look at that aggressive racing that we're having.
Yeah, Trafari had to hold his breath for a little bit as Moreno got by. Then in the middle of the green flag cycle, the longest we had seen of the night, crashed between Brad Sawinski and Connor Zola, and this was nearly the money stop on pit road. Moreno would slap on 2 Goodyear Eagles. AJ Hyder, the former leader, would take 4, so it really just bunched up the grid. And then a new challenger emerged. Justin Rott had a chance to win this race, was chasing down Ethan through the final few laps until yellows would fly, and then bring in a new key of strategy, staying out. Connor Trafari would find his way out after this crash here from Quincy Strawhacker down the back straightaway. That would lead a bunch of the field down pit road, except that 9 car and several others. He would stay out, and by that point they had gone through several overtime restarts to follow. Trafari ended up the man in front, taking the white flag on the final restart, and after many completed laps, Connor Trafari out in front, out for a checkered flag, his 3rd of the season, his 4th career SAAC Cup Series victory, and the first driver to go back-to-back this season since Ethan Fonseca Moreno did it at both Michigan and the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So it's a huge win for Trafari. It is a big boost in his championship pursuit, and how things have come alive for Trafari, Nate, over the last several weeks. Talladega was such a big statement for him, and he follows that up with a call, a gutsy one, in fact, to stay on old tires, beat the field out at Phoenix, and be able to grab the win. It's definitely great to be a Connor Trafari fan right now, and good to be Connor Trafari in general.
Yeah, I mean, let's not act like this was he just stayed out when he was running in the back all day. He was fighting for the lead up in the front of that field, and he actually was on the wrong end of the way the field flipped when there was the accident with Sawinski during green flag pit stops. So he had to charge his way back through the field. He got involved in a little bit of, wreckage as he made his way through the field through those plenty of restart wrecks that we saw, and he finally got to the front by staying out, and he was able to hold off everybody, even the guys on new tires. It was 3 restarts that he had to beat them all on, and he did it flawlessly.
And he had to do it against fresh tire cars as well, like AJ Hyder, like Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who at that moment, by the checkered flag flying, they kind of were, kicking themselves a little bit on what that call was for them. But for Trafari, all great things together, and he seems to have a really good car right now through qualifying. So potentially that 9 car could try and grab a historic 3rd race victory in a row and try to keep ascending that all-time wins list. Well, there is more on the line than just points and entering the playoffs and just an overall win here from virtual South Florida, because the mid-season bracket challenge continues, and this is the final round. It's come down to the 4 drivers that will fight for the $100 payout, and that, of course, has 2 of the most successful drivers this season. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the 1 seed, has ravaged his way through his competition alongside Connor Trafari, who has found his way up front as of late. He's going to be 2nd in the fight. Ollie Reeves and Cody Riveras made their way past that semifinal round, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All of the highest seeded members from the last round had moved on from Phoenix and are now fighting for that $100 payout tonight from Homestead-Miami. And the rules are simple. Finish ahead of the other 3 like it's a championship 4 format, and you're going to be winning the cash prize. Doesn't even matter where you finish. You don't even have to win the race. All you have to do is be ahead of those other guys, and you will be the winner of the bracket challenge. So not only is there the fight for the overall championship at stake for many, for some of these heavy hitters at the front end of the point standings, inside the top 16 confirmed for the playoffs, they are going to be fighting for the cash prize and some extra incentive, bit of extra momentum as we carry our way into the final race of this regular season from Homestead. Well, Francisco, you and I know this track very well. 1.5 mile open back in 1995 as promoter Ralph Sanchez wanted to stimulate the Homestead economy after the devastating effects of Hurricane Andrew in 1992. And ever since this place was born, it has been a staple of stock car racing in South Florida.
racing in South Florida at the Homestead-Miami Speedway is always electric, and even more so with the announcement of it returning as the finale in the 2026 NASCAR Championship weekend for the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. Here is a lap I was able to put together a couple weeks ago with the nice sun position, giving you a kind of a different feel of the different lines to run. You'll see guys maybe running like this towards the bottom side, really putting your left sides on the white line, and it's difficult to run that line. The car can be very free, and it can really want to step out on you, and having a lot of patience on the throttle is going to be very important, both ends of the racetrack. And 3 and 4 are so different than 1 and 2, not just on the bottom, but on the top as well, Kenneth. And I think you can attest to this, having actually driven on the racetrack. Turn 1 and 2, very different than 3 and 4.
They are very different, and the banking is so high near that outside wall. And here's that lap to which, Francisco, you've used insights from Kyle Larson on the Dale Jr. podcast about how to run the outside wall and how to be just as fast and faster than the rest of the competition. May not see some of the drivers in this series tonight be that up close to the outside wall the entire time, but it is very well used for momentum and possibly just killing off a bit of rear tire just for some extra track position. We know how tires have kind of leveled off depending on staying out versus coming into pit road, so in a tire track eating place like Homestead is, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how all things shake out. But the field is sitting behind the iRacing official pace car. Let's go trackside and give you tonight's starting grid for the 12th race of the Season 4 SAAC Cup Series and this regular season finale from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. We're on the front row, on the pole with a 32.664. It's the man who nearly won the race last week. In the last run, Justin Ron, his 76, lines up front row with Gabriel Dahari. Struggled at Phoenix last week. He's going to look for a pick-me-up and his second victory of the season. He'll be on the outside for the green flag. Back in row number 2, AJ Hyder, who had dominated the first half of the Phoenix race last Thursday. He'll be riding from third. Michael Walls and his LSU Chevrolet are right on the outside from position number 4. Back in row number 3 is the top 5 driver in qualifying, Connor Trafari, the 3-time winner this season, looking to go 3 in a row. Unprecedented for what we've seen this year. And Juan Escamilla, the 98 car, who just celebrated his birthday yesterday. He'll be back in P6 to the green flag. James Thurston in 7th, Ethan Fonseca Moreno rides in 8th, final 2 in the top 10, Austin Duran and James Bomar.
11th goes to Brandon Thomas in the number 7 machine, with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer off a runner-up finish last night in 4-wide series at Richmond. Amir Bascom will be rolling off 13th, trying to secure his spot on points in the playoffs alongside the 45 of Andretti Robinson. 15th will go to Malachi Drake, as he almost won a mile-and-a-half race earlier this season at Charlotte, with Luke Mahone in the number 34 rolling off in the 16th position. 17th will go to Brad Sawinski in the number 28, with Christopher Robinson in the 18th spot. And rounding out your top 20, Cody Rivers in the number 36, with Fidel Fabian rounding out the top 20.
We'll try to go through the rest of this grid as we are nearly to the green flag here inside the first 15 rows, but it is Justin Rott and Gabriel Dahari that'll lead the field off of turn 4 and will take us racing from Homestead-Miami Speedway for the very first time. Regular season finale racing, and it happens now. Rott and Dahari to the green flag from South Florida.
What an opening lap it's been for Justin Rott. There was nearly 4 wide further back in the pack. There almost is right there as well, as there's 3 wide on the outside. Making moves is the number 48 of AJ Hyder and James Thurston. Those two ripping the boards here at Homestead on lap 1.
Already trying to gain some of that track position. Dahari looking for what he lost. Near contact in the middle of 1 and 2 as he's still door-to-door. Connor Trafari exiting the corner. You see the sunlight beaming down here at Homestead-Miami. This track is not going to be for the faint of heart. It's going to be hot, it's going to be slick, and those tires will start to slide around sooner than you'd realize. But Nate, as we roll through these first several laps, not surprised to see AJ Hyder move his way up to second. Justin Rott continues to lead.
Oh,
now
spin in the back.
It looked like I wanted to say that was the 92 that got loose down over on the apron, and then there was some more trouble behind him. There's Brad Sawinski.
And that's tough for Sawinski. No yellow flies on lap number 3. Remember, he is on the edge to make it into the top 16. He needs a good one tonight in order to make the postseason. next 2 weeks from now at Darlington. Now the leader's going to spin and crash
Oh
Justin
my.
Rod at the
Oh my
exit of
goodness.
turn 4. AJ Hyder goes sending out, and multiple drivers are involved.
The big one in turn 4 at Homestead as more cars continue to slide into it late with Brian Lorenzo. Oh my goodness, that was not ideal. Justin Rott is going to have big damage here on lap 1. Looks like Shuey might have gotten a piece of it as well. So many cars, Kenneth, here in turn 4 getting collected on lap number 4.
And that's the most unexpected part of the field. You would see a wreck like that happen. It was AJ Hyder darting down the inside. We were just about to bring up our first potential change of the lead over the first 5 laps. And it's AJ Hyder right through mid-corner, Nate, that just steps out and he overcorrects right into the leader. And then as they sail down the banking, there's literally nowhere for anyone else to go.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week at Phoenix because we had a couple of impressive saves. It's so difficult to get these cars back pointed the right direction because of the way that steering is set up. So even the slightest input is going to send everything sideways. That's the view from Austin Duran's car, and you see everything way in front of him. He tried to get out of the way, but not enough racetrack to his inside to get away from the 76.
And Kenneth, James Thurston has also left the session. He did not get a piece of that incident, yet he immediately left as soon as the caution flag waves, and he sits a lap down.
Well, it looks like a lot of drama already, first of all, but Connor Trafari finds his way to second, Gabriel Dehari up in the lead. And with James Thurston, I guess he pulled the Gabriel Dehari from yesterday at Richmond, where maybe he just had enough. It looks like packet loss, so we'll keep an eye on whether Thurston and his number 82 Ford Mustang jumps back into the session, try to regain all of those laps back. But it is a heavy hit for AJ Hyder and, of course, for the pole sitter at the front in Justin Robb. Both of them on pit road. There's the damage assessed to both of those cars. The Toyota Camry, the Charlie Bayer photography machine for Justin Rod, all damaged. Brad Sawinski is going to get the caution that he desired there, Nate, but obviously in dire circumstances for so many of these front runners. And Gabriel Dehari, who had lost spots in the opening few laps, had been aggressive to gain all of it back. He just had the lead put right in his lap from the first 5.
Yeah, and, you know, one man's misfortune is another man's fortune, so not a great start for the 72, but he finds himself back in the lead 5 laps in, and he's got 129 laps starting from the pole now, pretty much, is what he's got in front of him.
And he's a former mile-and-a-half winner, took the W at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Still to this day, his first and only SAAC Cup Series career victory. Did it in dominating fashion in that last sector against AJ Hyder, and now he's going to have to hold off Connor Trafari. And basically the rest of this pack, we'll see if anyone else steps out loose and causes more issues, but our opening yellow comes in a rather unexpected place in the battle for the top spot. We'll double them up here for our first green flag restart at lap 7. Dehari in the lead, Trafari down the inside in row 1. And behind them is where you find Michael Walls and Amir Bascombe, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer inside the current running top 5. And for Amir Bascombe, this is going to be a race that he really needs to go well. He is in defense for the top 16. He currently rides above the cut line at the moment, but one bad race could really soil your chances at making a coveted place in the run for the championship. So Bascombe is going to have to hope that this race goes in his favor. Plus 39 to the cut line heading into this race from Miami. So all he's got to do is hold on to business, keep his car on him, and he should be okay. He'll be second on the inside lane right behind the launching Trafari, who will wait for his right-sided car, Gabriel Dehari, to launch first in the United Rentals restart zone. Green flag from Homestead to turn 1, Francisco.
And already drivers being aggressive, making it 3 wide. It looks like that is the 45, Andretti Robinson to the inside of Luke Mahone and the number 34. As you're seeing drivers a little bit further back from the main race lead, making big moves to the outside, being aggressive to take these positions down the back straightaway. As you see peeking to the inside of Trafari on Michael Walls, and he'll almost get the bumper. And there's the aero pack that we have yet to mention today. That is a perfect example of what it's like to get close to the car in front of you and get him sideways without ever making contact.
And Nate, we didn't see that in the first caution of the race because AJ Hyder had no one near him, but that time Michael Walls had the car right on the rear bumper. Car stepped out of line. Trafari also drops back in the midst of this top 10. The drama continues, and Jonathan Jurgensmeyer find his way to second.
Plenty of aerodynamic shenanigans, if you will, happening here, which is, of course, something we didn't see a whole lot of other than just a little bit of dirty air last week at Phoenix, but it's a bigger track, a faster track here in Miami, and it looks like there was another car sideways. It's the 98 of Escamilla. and he's able to get it saved on the apron. A good job by Escamilla. Looks like we're going to stay green.
Oh, no, in trouble.
Oh, we're
now
crashing
in front of
that
him,
Duncan Fall.
is going to spin right ahead. And there's the yellow for the second time tonight. And just as Escamilla thought he had the car saved, Duncan Fall had created the plume of smoke at the exit of 4 and came right back up into his good friend. And the 61 car finds big time trouble. He had been eliminated late in the goings of the midseason bracket. And now even more problems, Francisco, as we continue on through this race.
Yeah, I mean, difficult conditions to be racing in. As there you see a quick look on the right side of the screen of what happened with Walls and Trafari. There's the aero pack. You can see there's plenty of space between the 9 to 24. Great save by Walls, but then right here, just loses it, Jafari, and he was able to save it as well. But then the trouble a lap later to the 80 or the 98 of Juan Escamilla is what resulted in the accident sequence. So here now is the main look at Duncan Fall and Juan Escamilla just in front of Ethan Fonseca-Renault's Fall. There's Escamilla getting sideways. There goes Fall going by on the apron, and it looks like that upset the car. Transition to the apron, nearly hits the pit road attenuator. So does Escamilla, but that hit right there reflects him off, and well, a huge hit between the 61 and the 98 that'll probably give them some kind of suspension damage. But what I want to talk about, Kenneth, is ever since the update to these cars and the setups, is that Homestead-Miami Speedway is incredibly slick, probably a lot slicker than any other racetrack that we will visit on the schedule. At any point in time, the car will just want to step out after about 2 or 3 laps on the tires.
That's true, and you and I had realized that the first day of the update when it came out. Obviously, those effects of the car being as slick at Homestead have minimized a little bit, but it's still around to the point where it can catch even some of the veteran drivers off guard. And for Duncan Fall, in the way to get out of the nearly spinning Escamilla, it got him in trouble. And boy, he did a great job as well to keep himself off the inside pit attenuators, that place that Kyle Larson hit a couple years ago during the NASCAR Cup Series race in the fight for the lead down pit road strategy. So he stays off of that. He still hits the inside safer barrier, but it could have been much worse for car number 61. However, it will nearly be a death sentence early on, as that will put them multiple laps down. And as you watch, even from further up, AJ Hyder still has yet to recover from his early accident. His car remains trapped on his pit stall. Justin Rott, the pole sitter, is going to remain back on in. His car not entirely fixed either. So the casualty list and the injury list is starting to build up here. I know it's the start of football season, but the injury reserves are starting to come in, guys. It's been a little bit of a chaotic one to start from Homestead.
Yeah, it's only lap 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you're halfway through week 2 and you got a couple starting offensive linemen already out of duty, and you're starting to go into your second or third strings and on that, and then you're really hit the peak of football season. You're starting to rethink all your choices.
Well, we are going to double up and try to get somewhat of a green flag run, running up the middle here. We'll see how things go. Gabriel Dahari still the race leader. He's been the man in control, and we saw him up front at Phoenix early on. He had made a decision to come down pit road, the earliest out of the bunch of the leaders, and then he had picked up damage. He had fallen way back in the field, and it wasn't entirely a great race to finish for the B-Movie Chevrolet, but this time in a much better position, looking to continue his stranglehold on the field for right now. Amir Basco moves up to the race high second. Back behind him, 2 Ford Mustangs. And Jonathan Juergensmeyer and Andretti Robinson, they'll have Luke Mahone and Michael Walls right behind. And with all of this chaos, the field has shaken up so much through the mid-pack that you really can't tell who started in the top 10 and who started outside of it, because it's really just a hodgepodge of race cars, all because this track surface has been so slick and it's caught so many drivers off of their marker through the first several laps. We'll take the green flag here, lap number 13 of 134, which is a full distance of just about 200 miles. NAS length distance for the NASCAR Cup Series cars at these 1.5-mile tracks. Into the restart zone for the second time tonight. Great jump from the inside row. Jonathan Juergensmeyer wiggles through, but ends up nearly clearing for second. Back to turn 1, Nate Bascom having to hold on for third.
At the bottom row, got a great restart. Gabriel Dahari mashed the gas and got away from everyone. They're fanning out high and wide through 1 and 2, and off and away are Dahari and Juergensmeyer. They're side by side for third. That's Andretti Robinson and Amir Bascom. We've got another caution on the speedway.
And trouble. Malachi Drake finds his way to the inside of the apron, and other drivers may have been collected, and that does include Ollie Reeves in his Culver Chevrolet. He is a part of the 4-man group trying to fight for the $100 in the midseason bracket challenge that ends tonight. And that's definitely a bad, sour taste for car number 31, as Drake, who ended up second at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier this season, I believe may have just been in the heart of the accident. So let's see how this all unfolded. This was again in the mid-pack, and we watched, Nate, so many of the drivers move up and down through the field because of carnage like this, and I believe it may have started up the road, potentially with Michael Walls. No, started with Reeves, got wiggled loose in 1 and 2, catches a bit of the car right behind, and then in turn spins Malachi Drake, gets the 7 machine. Brad Sawinski is in it. That 7 car was Brandon Thomas.
Yeah, but looking at that, I don't know that there was a lot of significant contact for the 31. Certainly not the same as we've seen for some other drivers in this race and in this accident. Just a little bit there. I think he was mostly untouched. There's the 7 getting up to the outside wall. Pretty hard there after the secondary contact. So he might be in a little bit of trouble, but on board with Reeves. Back end steps out, makes contact with the 90, and I think that is about it as far as contact that was made. So obviously not ideal, but he kind of gets away with it there.
Yeah, that's true. Doesn't really get away with that much damage. It's maybe a bit on the right rear. He's able to escape without suspension damage, which is such a good blessing with this next-gen car, because if you do pick up suspension damage, you are in for a lot of trouble. And so for one of those finalists in the midseason bracket challenge, he'll be able to survive for now, but it really has been the same deal that we've seen from all the past cautions. It's just a car stepping out. That time it was out of turn 2, while we've seen most of the trouble occur back down in turns 3 and 4. And just a quick note, if we're talking midseason bracket challenge, the other drivers involved, of course, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who runs in 10th, Connor Trafari, who sits in 8th. The only other driver in it is Cody Rivera, who was actually a part of one of our crashes earlier on tonight, right at this very part of the track in turns 3 and 4, but it was a rather harmless spin for the Titleist Ford Mustang, and so the league owner will have a chance still to fight for the cash prize, and in a pretty good spot at the moment. He is the leader of the bracket challenge once we get ready for the choose cone and this next restart. But Francisco, is it really surprising to see all this trouble occur here at Homestead? I know that the track is slicker than usual. These cars handle differently on this surface than they ever did before, but is it just a bit odd to see the way that this field has kind of struggled to get to grip the things over the first 16?
I'm being honest, Kenneth, it does not surprise me all that much, and the reason because of that is I've driven many test laps here. This is probably the track that I drive the most on iRacing, and ever since the update, it feels so much slicker than any other racetrack that I drive at, and there's some that I feel like I'm not that great at, and the back end steps out, but it's incredible. Here at Homestead, you get more than 2 or 3 laps on the tires, and it is very, 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 very sensitive. And I mean so sensitive that you could probably not be on the throttle and the car will step out. So you package that with over 100-degree track temperatures and aero packing situations. And honestly, I'm surprised some of these guys are still making the corner. So it's really curious to see if this is something that maybe gets patched in the build. Hopefully it makes the car a little bit more racy here than it did previously. As you see, we're single file getting ready for the restart up against the outside wall, guys, trying to take position. Hopefully we can see a longer run tonight as Dahari leads them off the restart zone and goes back to turn 1 with the race lead as the battles are going on behind.
And that reason for single file restarts is because league owners decide that if there's a caution within the first 5 or so laps of the restart, they will try to single them out, especially after the first green flag lap. If they cannot complete it without a yellow flying, then they will single them up, try to clean things up overall. And so for the most part, it seems to have worked. There is the Simrap Market Chevrolet of Luke Mahone on the outside, trying to fend off the LSU Chevrolet of Michael Walls. I'm sure Micah and our good friend Keelan Belcher.
Oh, spin in the back.
Oh, yeah, there is trouble. And there was someone spinning near the outside wall. Wyatt Roberts seems to be in it. And Cody Rivera, who is in the top 10, guys, in trouble.
Yeah, Nate's right. There was about 3 separate incidents going on there. One of them being this 36 of Cody Rivera, one of those bracket challenge members, in trouble early on. Like, there was about 3 separate moments in turn 3 and 4. The first car I saw go sideways was the 36. Looks like maybe some slight contact with Baggio. Moreno's lucky there not to get sent up to the outside wall. Rivera tries hanging on to it, ultimately hits the wall there. Relatively minor contact. And I think further back, it was the, I want to say 52 of Austin Doran, that found some more trouble with the 42 of Wyatt Roberts, actually. So he gets up here into the wall just in front of another car and experiences aero packing. Doesn't look like that other car lifts for him, and that's what sends Roberts into the outside wall, bringing the yellow flag out. So I think this kind of proves my point of what I was talking about under the previous yellow. It seems as though a mix of aero packing and incredibly loose race cars has been the cause of almost all these yellows so far.
It has, and we did see those cars of Roberts and Tarpley hitting the outside wall at the same time on the back end of one of our wide shots at the exit of turn 4, but didn't warrant any concern until that yellow came out. And for Cody Riveras, I mean, joins the troubled drivers like Ollie Reeves and almost the back half of the field, the rest of them really, that have either ended up in the wall, ended up with damage, or have spun around in the first stint here from Homestead, as the conscious decision for the leaders not to come down pit road is an obvious one. It's still not long enough to warrant anybody coming in, given how little green flag laps they have run on their set of Goodyear Eagles. So we will try to restart them again. And it's really been hard to find any sort of advantage if you are guys like Jonathan Juergensmeyer, if you're Andretti Robinson, Amir Bascombe. And you think of where those three drivers have ended up in our last race of the season, Phoenix Raceway last Thursday. We had the Andretti Robinson car finish top 10. We've seen him do well at other mile-and-a-halfs this season. You think of where Gabriel Dahari had finished. He had been so far trapped down in the field that he ended up way back beneath the top 30, I believe, in that race, or maybe just a bit around that marker. We saw Jonathan Juergensmeyer come away with a solid finish, I believe, in that race as well. Ended up P7. And then Amir Bascombe, who we are watching to try and settle out the group inside the top 16 and stay where he is. He's just having to kind of squabble through some of the other drivers right now, but after a decent-ish race at the virtual Phoenix Raceway, looking to climb back in the boards. And just to confirm what I was trying to say, Gabriel Dahari ended up P20 in that Phoenix race last Thursday. So it's really everyone just trying to piggyback themselves up, and if they're good on points for now, it's really just about making that momentum stride forward to keep using that positive boost to get into Darlington with a lot more of that confidence in mind. Lights are off from the iRacing official pace car. Nate, I believe from what we're seeing, maybe on behalf of Gabriel Dahari, it's pretty good right now where you are. Cautions are coming out. You're not necessarily in any danger. You haven't really been challenged all too much. Not a bad place to be, I'd say.
No one can pass you under caution. As long as you nail the restarts, you're probably not going to get guys getting too close to you. And, well, it's taken us about a lap and a half to wad them up each time. So still looking forward for a longer green flag run. And with it, the track temp being so hot, I tell you what, there's a guy, if I know anyone who loves a hot racetrack, it's Jonathan Juergensmeyer in the 00. You see that 113, the track temperature. It's hot, it's slick. Jonathan Juergensmeyer, he's told me personally a couple times, if you follow his Twitter, you know it, he likes a hot racetrack. So if we get ourselves a nice run here, definitely look for that 00 to come alive.
And Juergensmeyer, in his last KBueno start at Homestead, it was during the 4-wide racing finale that occurred here several months ago before the next-gen update had fully kicked in, but Juergensmeyer did very well for himself. Looking for the lead, running inside the top 5. Wasn't entirely the greatest finish that he had ever wanted, but it was still a very good race to walk away from. And yesterday, coming off of his best career 4-wide effort at Richmond Raceway in a caution-filled event that seems to be following in the same tracks of this one right here. Green flag back in the air from Homestead. Tap of the wall for Bascombe, looking for third in turn 1.
Yeah, Amir Bascombe with an aggressive restart here to the outside of Andretti Robinson. He's got to be careful. We've seen cars on the inside struggle for grip and end up getting into the car on the outside. They're nearly rubbing each other down the back straightaway. Robinson wiggles a little bit, and there goes a car spinning in the back. Looks like trouble. I want to say it's Fidel Fabian in the 55. Nearly clips Duncan Fall, and it appears as though that's actually Brandon Thomas in the 7. Bascombe tags the outside wall in 3 and 4, but he'll get a huge run off the corner, and I think that's as best of an example of what the high side momentum does, because now, after losing that spot, Andretti Robinson's under attack.
And Bascombe had nearly given up third place. Robinson was down the inside. Bascombe had tapped the outside safer barrier, but again made the use of the high banking on the outside of the racetrack. It's progressive here at Homestead from 18 to 20 degrees from bottom to top. So Bascombe using it to his advantage momentum-wise. He'll stick back up near the boards, and down the bottom shelf goes that neon green and black Ford Mustang of Andretti Robinson. Right behind is where the peaking Maluk Mahome has been trying to make passes ever since then, but hasn't really been able to make his move forward. Battle behind them inside the top 6. There's Trafaria on the outside, Moreno down the inside now to turn 1, And Nate, not entirely the first time we've seen these two go at it, as last week at Phoenix we had lots of good runs. As caution comes out, quick spin, it's Christopher Robinson, the 12 car.
Yeah, we saw the 9 and the 92 battling a lot, but got interrupted by a caution, which none too surprising for the race we've seen so far. Let's take a look at what happens with Christopher Robinson. All by himself on the racetrack. It just loses it on exit of turn 4 and loops back up. And if that doesn't tell you just how hot and slick this racetrack is, I don't know what will. There was no aero pack on the 12 car. It was all there by himself. That's how difficult it is to drive these cars right now in these conditions. So it puts into perspective the job that guys like Gabriel Dahari, Jonathan Juergensmeyer, Amir Bascombe, all of them are doing, running up front, running as fast as they possibly can up and around people as well.
You know, Francisco, the one thing that I noticed from that replay on Robinson's spin, he crossed the seams in the exit of the corner, and that's a big no-no here at Homestead. There are two darkened lines. You see it just a bit higher up on the white line of the racetrack, and then one even closer to the outside wall. Those are known as the seams here at Homestead. If you cross them, those tires will start to lose a bit of grip. We've seen a lot of times, even at other racetracks, you cross the seam in the middle of the corner, the car is going to unravel itself around slowly but surely, and it happened there for Robinson.
I was able to have the privilege of riding around the Homestead-Miami Speedway in a BMW, the road course, but it took the oval in 3 and 4. And let me tell you, I told that driver, hey, I sim race. He sim races a good amount too, but he does this thing more regularly. So I told him, don't worry about me. You try to go as fast as you can. And let me tell you, he put on a show around this racetrack for me. And what he did was in 3 and 4, when he was taking the oval, you can feel when you're on the seams because the car just has a little bit of a moment. It just wants to jump away at you. And it's not that you're going to wreck, but that's just you skipping over that layer of asphalt. You go to a lower or a different layer and you could just feel that change. And it's incredible how if you're not careful, it can spin you out.
It's trouble there for Robinson all by himself, and it's sort of what caught out the rest of the field through the first several yellows we've had over this long stint that has gone mostly caution-filled. Hopefully we can try and drag in some green flag laps with Gabriel Dahari still up at the front. Let's try and talk with the pole sitter, Justin Rott, who ended up in trouble, still on pit road. Justin, I know it wasn't exactly the start to the Homestead race you would have exactly liked in this brand new paint scheme, but tell us what you saw there from AJ Hyder down the inside and then that crash there in turn 4.
It was a little terrifying, really big jump scare, but I saw a lot of nothing in front of me, which was fun and a bit of a change of scenery. I've run really well the past couple weeks, I guess just 2, but you know, season's been pretty terrible, but I had a lot of fun through practice and qualifying and stuff. It was pretty tricky trying to learn the track and everything, but you know, I tried my best and somehow put it on pole. I didn't think it was that great of a lap, but obviously it was. Shout out to all you guys in the booth also.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, but obviously this race still has a lot of life left in it. You still got a lot of race to go. How are you going to try to get back into the mindset and work your way towards the lead lap? Because I feel like at this point, with how many yellows we've seen, you have a good chance of getting back in the lead group with these guys.
Well, I don't know about all as 14 down. I'm just kind of here riding around for, I don't know, for experience or for fun. Yeah, it's been a rough season, so hopefully this restart here is good, and yeah.
All right, well, Justin, we really appreciate the time. Obviously a tough break for you early, but hopefully you can be able to salvage this finish.
Yep, thank you.
That's Justin Rott, the pole sitter. Unfortunate end to his race, especially with a highly contentious car as AJ Hyder had overcorrected right under him in 3 and 4 as they were battling for the lead. Green flag restart here, lap number 29, and once more it's Dahari out in front, stretching his hands. Jonathan Juergensmeyer right behind. There's Ethan Fonseca-Moreno, that red car down the outside, trying to make a move on Mahone for P5.
Ethan Fonseca-Moreno has many great memories here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. It's the site of a couple of his championships. The biggest one is the one he has in a trophy case in his room in the 4-wide series back in season number 6. So plenty of good stuff and pretty good memories here for the 92 as he works his way back into the top 5 after his earlier troubles. He did pit at some point in this race. Actually, no, he's still not yet to pit, which most of the top 13 have yet to been on pit road in this race, and that's probably exactly why they've done so good.
And Nate, this is a driver right here that is hungry to try and go out and win this race, because last week at Phoenix, he had probably the best car of them all. If it was not AJ Hyder's in his number 48, he had led a majority of the race, had patrolled a long green flag run that nearly got us to the checkered flag until the yellow flag came out. And then everyone had stayed out with Connor Trafari and the rest of the group. Moreno and AJ Hyder had pitted, and ending up with a 14th place finish was Moreno. And he told us after just how dejected he felt at the checkered flag of that race, and kind of felt how the race came down to luck on a well-timed yellow for Trafari and the group. This is a guy that really wants to go back to victory lane and reestablish that dominance right before the eliminator chase begins.
Yeah, it's really the first time he's been challenged as far as a win total all season. And last week was, I think he had the best long run car. He was running down AJ under the green flag run before Hyder lost the lead on pit road. And then on 2 tires, he put on a defensive clinic, holding off the 76 of Justin Rott, who I thought was the best short run car. He had finally outlasted the short end of the run. He looked like he was going to be able to, it wouldn't have been a cruise, it would have been a tough drive, but it was absolutely a manageable drive. When the caution came out, he at that point had to put on tires, or else he probably would have dropped like a rock and lost all that track position last week. So a heartbreaker for the 92. He wants it back this week.
And he's having to hold off Luke Mahone. Great charge in the middle of 3 and 4. Gets that bright blue colored Chevrolet to the outside. Pointing down low is Moreno, and nearly had a shot at the car you're looking on board with right now, Amir Bascombe, who, like we said, is still holding on for a spot inside the top 16 to make the eliminator chase format. And so Bascombe, the California native, trying to hold off another California driver in a sunset nearly Homestead-Miami Speedway, a place that's also known for its warm weather and its beaches. So near the outside wall tap, there goes Moreno, 3 wide behind him.
This is great racing as the caution flag comes out, so we aren't really able to demonstrate just how good the racing has been. Trouble for the 13 of Connor Zola a little bit further back, just as we were getting a couple laps into that run, and we were really starting to see the essence of Homestead-Miami Speedway play out with 3 to 7 cars all in a huge battle running different lines. And we're going to see where the trouble arose for the number 13, and it looks as though he gets caught in between 2 cars, maybe jumps sideways, and that's exactly what spins him down into the inside wall. Doesn't make contact with the inside wall, so apart from the contact with the race car to his outside, he might be okay.
Not a lot of damage for the 13 car. Better look here outside turn 4.
Oh, pinball.
And slamming off of 2 cars that are in conversation for the top 16. Brad Sawinski, who we saw make a spill earlier on in tonight's race, and Larry Miles, that gray and orange 30 Toyota Camry, he's plus 24 heading into tonight's event, so not entirely great that he's semi-involved in the crash, but luckily for the rest of the field, they don't end up picking up the mess from Connor Zola's spin. And really, we're going to see how things move between those drivers, and with the amount of trouble we've seen a lot of them in facing tonight, Amir Bascombe seems to be in the best place of them all, just kind of hanging out in the front and racing as hard as he could, but just looking to keep that momentum as high as possible. There are some of the fakes down pit road, and Francisco, we're 34 laps in, so it's really just a matter of coming down pit road if you really want fresh tires, if you're typically looking at an average run on tires for these cars. But given all these yellows, I'm not sure if there's a compelling argument against pitting other than trying to put yourself on an alternate strategy if we end up staying green from now.
Absolutely, that the alternate strategy could help with the fuel windows, but also just trying to get on a better tire set. We have 4 laying in the pits. A couple of cars have been to pit road multiple times. I don't think any of them have taken tires more than once, at the very least. Bomar has been on pit road, I believe, has taken tires on 2 occasions, maybe also fixing some damage on his race car. Another notable is Austin Doran, who's been in the pit lane now 6 times, but I also think he's maybe only taken tires once or twice at a maximum. So a couple of just key moves here as he's still trying to repair his race car. When you pit for tires, and especially the fuel's going to matter. Fuel run here, I think tops is looking at close to 55 laps if we were to go green, and with all these caution flags, the window's almost getting close to 70 laps to Hari right now. What I will say post-update, what makes it difficult to save fuel, Kenneth, is right now the clutching speed in which you can turn off the engine is capped to a maximum of pace speed. So if you're going above pace car speed, you cannot turn the engine off. Only if you go below it will it actually turn off. So only clutching, when historically speaking, clutching and turning off the engine saves you a bit more fuel. So just something to think about.
That's a good point. It's a marker of 70 miles an hour, to which if you go faster than that, you can't turn the engine off. If you're below it, then you can. But given pace speed, a lot of the times, you're flirting around 70 more often than you'd like. So you'll see lots of times where drivers would be in the situation where they'd want to turn their cars off and save as much fuel as possible, but they just can't because they're going too fast and they have to woe down the car. The last thing they want to do is start checking up the field behind the pace car and make the restart an entire mess. But it's not going to be a big one because we will indeed, I believe, go single file once more. Once again, Dahari in control. And you look at the top three between Dahari, Juergensmeyer, and the third place running car of Amir Bascombe. Talk about young in this series. Average age between those three drivers, 19 years old. They are all super young between those three. Dahari, the oldest, at 21 years old.
Wow.
The Houston Texan continuing to lead this race. As the lights are off, pace car will make its start to the left and to the entrance of pit road. And once again, that bright yellow and black Chevrolet looking good at the front is going to try and stay there through the United Rentals restart zone. Green flag, back to turn one.
Yeah, that fact right there just made me feel like an unk, and it doesn't help the fact that Juan Escamilla called me one when I'm 8 days older than him.
He just celebrated his 23rd birthday yesterday, so I don't know if he really has rights to call you Unc, Francisco. Maybe to me, because I'm older than both of y'all, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But still, youth prevailing at the front of this field. There's Moreno darting down the inside of Luke Mahone. And just sneaking into the background, Nate, is the defending champion, Steven Maggio, repping a Miami Vice-themed paint scheme. He has slowly chalked his way up through the field, and it hasn't been by a fluke. We've seen all these yellows come out, but Maggio on each passing green flag run has been able to pluck off one driver after the other. So the Cairo, New York native is starting to exemplify his skill as he charges on towards his good friend and teammate.
Yeah, he's up there ripping the fence. You saw it as we went on board, and right as you mentioned him, he was bouncing off of the wall in 3 and 4. Here he is, not quite all the way to the top again, but that's where you got to go when you need the momentum and you're trying to work through the field, and you see Fonseca Moreno's up there. Oh, and Maggio gets a little squirrely out of turn 4. But as I was saying, Fonseca Moreno, Michael Walzer up there, riding up on the fence, trying to get as much pace through the field as possible.
And Maggio has told us over the last several months, Francisco, that he's not entirely too confident here at Homestead. Before that 4-wide finale, he told me during media day for the Championship 5 that he wasn't necessarily in it to be the standout driver at Homestead. He was going to learn on the fly from some of the others who are better at this track naturally than he is. But over the last several races here at Homestead, Maggio has found some of that confidence. He's told us that he feels more comfortable driving this track, and now he knows how to push his car when it matters the most. It ended up with a top 3 effort at the Championship 5 at Homestead in 4-wide competition. And in Homestead in general, Maggio has been able to compete better and better than he ever has before. So keep an eye on him as up front, Luke Mahone is sideways, and he'll take out Andretti Robinson, damage Steven Maggio, and the rest of the field will stack up behind. Big crash in turn 3.
Oh, it looks like we're getting a track walker.
There are 2 drivers in it, Alexander Schumacher and Brad Sawinski, another dagger into his hopes of getting into the top 16. And it all started with a loose Luke Mahone, who had basically saved it on the wall, but then caught Steven Maggio and caught a bunch of other drivers as well. I hate to be that person that does the commentators jinx at this juncture of the race, but it just about happened there on the back straightaway. We'll try to get a better look at how it all unfolded. And Luke Mahone, Nate, is not going to give up his track position because he still was 4th at the throwing of the yellow, but he is the cause of it nonetheless.
Yeah, we're looking at him right here. He gets a little loose coming out of the corner, saves it, and then it's Andretti Robinson and Ethan Fonseca Moreno that really get the worst of it, as Andretti Robinson's got to react to the 34, and he comes up the track, and the 92 is right there.
And then behind them is where Alex Schumacher and Brad Sawinski find their way into the mess. This is them further on back. That blue KBRN Ford Mustang is running on the outside 3 abreast. There's the carnage in front. Andretti Robinson goes sideways. Into him goes Maggio, then Radcock, Sawinski spin, and ricocheting down the track is that Grand Theft Auto 6 car to where Schumacher has nowhere to go. Up in front, The UAlbany car of Brian Lorenzo also gets in it, and it's just a sizable accident that will take out several heavy hitters. And Francisco, we've got drivers on pit road. Race leader Gabriel Dahari has called himself in here at lap 42.
And he lost the track position to the 00 Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who just barely was ahead of 72 at the pit exit line with 4 tires. So Jurgensmeyer with a really great pit stop to get in front of the 72. Amir Bascom is in, and a couple of cars stay out. While on the topic of Amir Bascom, Kenneth, how about that paint scheme? For those of you that know me, you know that Celsius is like my new one of my fads right now. So
Yes.
the fact that he's running a paint scheme, that's something I normally run. I'm not a huge fan of the vibes flavors in general, but I will say that scheme in general very much fits the aesthetic of the Homestead-Miami Speedway, given the palm trees and the colors.
I was just about to ask if you like that flavor or not to give Bascom any other style points, but if you've already given the answer, then that's fair.
Yeah, I love a lot of the other flavors as long as they're sparkling. I have probably about 10 variants that I have done already on the next gen and Xfinity car. I still have to make more on the truck probably, but you'll get to see a lot of those variants running throughout the 4-wide season, as there's Stephen Maggio on pit road for a second time. I believe he's holding in the pit lane right now. He lost a lap, so not quite sure what's going on with the 51 right now.
Fighting for lead lap eligibility, Lucky Dog is in favor of the car in front of him, which is the 55 of Fidel Fabian. So we'll keep an eye on what the exact matter is for Maggio, but he's still on pit road. Over 2 minutes that he spent on the pit lane itself and inside his pit box. The time continues to tick away. Now more than 2 minutes in his stall as Jason Ratchcock has found his way by. So for the 51, the frustrations continue. The defending champion has been so good at many of these tracks. He's definitely questioned the morals of the series when he stays out and when he's in a good position, and then poorly timed cautions come out to take him out of contention for the win. It's going to be another race where he's pondering how to get back in this deal, as we're 43 laps in with a brand new race leader, this time league owner Cody Rivera's, who will have the head of the mid-season bracket challenge and the control of the field back to turn 1.
Out of a cannon right there.
Wonderful start from Riveras, Thomas, and Bomar running second and third. And funny enough, we've seen that Lucas Oil car be in trouble several times tonight, and he's all the way back in the top 3 given how attrition-filled this night has been. There to the inside goes Jurgensmeyer, the Illinois native, trying to strike on the B-Movie Chevrolet. Outside goes Dahari, but he can't keep that momentum rolling through the progressive banking. And down to the outside, well, that's going to be Justin Rott trying to fight for his lap back. He is 14 laps down, still in 31st, but he's in the midst of this pack regardless, as Jurgensmeyer on the fresh set of Goodyear Eagles trying to charge, now under Wyatt Roberts for P5.
I believe I found the culprit of why Stephen Maggio now sits 3 laps down in this race, Kenneth. He had some pretty good front-end damage. As he was entering the pit lane, the left front seems to be off. The right front seems to be also, looks like some suspension damage. Watch as he enters his stall here. Look at the front tire, how much it shakes and how long it locks up for. That is not normal locking up. That is suspension damage on the 51.
That's a killer on these next-gen cars, as they are all over the place. 4 wide down the front straightaway, as Dahari had made contact with the leading Jurgensmeyer at the exit of 4, and that tallied into all the lost momentum and the rest of the field behind. But such a huge heartbreak for the New York native in Maggio, who will see Homestead go by, possibly without him having a chance at a decent points finish. Dahari down low on Trafari. This will be for P6 in turn 4.
Yeah, and these guys on the fresh tires, they're starting to get up to the
Rivera's on
guys
the
that
wall.
stayed out. Oh. All the way in the wall is Riveras, going slow, no caution yet. He was one of those guys, he stayed out, was in the lead. And we're going to try to find out what exactly happened here. If he just got a little too high, perhaps.
Let's see, right side of
On
your
the right
screen. That's where the Titleist car is, and yeah, Francisco just lost it.
Yeah, and that broke the suspension, because you see he does not pull away from the wall. He just kind of stays up there, lets the entire field pass, and unfortunately for Cody Rivera's, that's probably going to spell an end to his bid at trying to win the bracket challenge.
The good news for Riveras is that he got away from everyone else, so no one else gave him a shot and caused a caution, but obviously the problem is that totaling suspension damage that will surely take him out of contention after leading a good bit of this race. And we had already mentioned how slick these cars are. You bring in the fact that clean air is part of it as well, and it becomes an even bigger circumstance because, Nate, behind traffic, you can use that dirty air and that bit of understeer to rotate your car just a little bit better if it's already loose. Now, if it's loose in the middle of traffic, you get into clean air where it gets even looser. That car's going to free up to the point where it's going to shake you out of line, and you're going to end up in a situation like Riveras and like many others have faced in tonight's field. The fate has been sealed for him getting loose and overcorrecting.
Yeah, and the balance is always an issue because you hear it in iRacing, you hear it in the real world. Oh, yeah, it drives great in traffic, it drives great in traffic. They get out front and it's horrible, or more often, really the other way around. It drives great out front and then it's horrible in traffic, so you come down and try to fix it in traffic, and now it drives horrible when you get up front. So it's about kind of just managing it, and this, of course, was the first time that Riveras was out in front of this race, so not too shocking the first time you're out in front leading laps that you might have a little bit of trouble. And we're looking to see perhaps another new contender out front, as Juergensmeyer was running down Bomar. Of course, Juergensmeyer on the fresh tires, but I think he's side by side with Gabriel Dahari for second. They're going to battle behind the 15.
They will. That's on the fresh tire group, as we were on board there with Shockey Tarpley, who's now starting to slice up to the top 10. There's the dart under from Dahari, failed attempt, and you have to hit the reset button. Back to turn 1 from the Beckmeyer, Illinois native, who is searching for his first win this season. He's now still 6/10 behind the leader in James Bomar, but not to say that the hands might not change anytime in the next few minutes, because we've seen Bomar get loose on and off of turns 3 and 4. He's given up some of that time, and so Juergensmeyer and Dahari, that's really where they can strike hard and be able to offer none of that mercy. They hug the inside line in turns 3 and 4, while Bomar tries to rip the fence. Still 0.6 of a second between the two. Bomar still the fastest car.
And it looks like right now, when you consider the bracket challenge, the leader of the bracket right now is the number 31 of Ali Reeves. When you consider what's going on with the 36, the 28, and even Ethan Fonseca Moreno down in 21st. So there is your bracket challenge leader of Ali Reeves in the 12th spot.
And Ali looking for the $100. He's had quite a shaky season 4, as he's been involved in several crashes this season. It's had pretty good results every now and then, but trying to carry that momentum into Darlington Raceway 2 weeks from tonight. As on the left side of your screen, solid battles inside the back half of this top 10. That's where Shockey Tarpley resides. Larry Miles is up there as well. Remember, we're talking about drivers that are in and outside of the top 16, and going into this race, that's where Larry Miles is in the biggest set of trouble. He's plus 24 going into this race, so it is still a gap that he can manage, but he's going to have to hope that Nicholas Baumann and Brad Sawinski don't all of a sudden have a fantastic race, to which so far we haven't seen Sawinski have any good luck, and Baumann right now isn't even in this race, so it's not a question of whether that 81 car could pose a threat. It's going to be whether Brad Sawinski can have anything for Larry Miles, who at this moment is going to have to hold off Michael Walls. And before one of the yellows came out, I was about to bring up a good point, just a little bit of a fun tidbit. We've seen Walls rep LSU almost all season long, and I'm sure he's in agreement with our good friend Keelan Belcher, who is also repping the LSU Tigers. Big win over Clemson over the last weekend, a defensive showdown. They were able to come back from a 10-3 deficit at halftime, come all the way back. So I'm sure Walls is very happy about his hopeful SEC contender as he rides in 10th.
Yeah, Keelan Bell's a big fan of the LSU Tigers. Big college football rivalries we tend to see out here sometimes in these races.
Oh yeah, plenty of guys from the South, and college football is huge in the South. And a fun fact about that LSU, and that's their first opening weekend win since their national championship in 2019. So perhaps a good omen for the Tigers. If we got a battle for the lead, here's Gabriel Dahari on James Bomar.
Out of a cannon as Dahari slides underneath James Bomar, and the lead will change once again here from Homestead-Miami. Back in control, the Texan Gabriel Dahari leads out front, back to turn 1.
And there was a huge moment in turn 4 for the 30 of Larry Miles. He had a big slide in front of the 25 of Shockey Tarpley, was able to save it, and they were able to keep going nearly 4 wide. As here's the look on the right-hand side as Dahari now is going to have a fight again with Bomar, but look at that near close call.
Tough there for Miles. He saves it, though, and we stay green. And that one slip-up from Dahari in 1 and 2 is going to bring Bomar the
Bomar
lead.
sideways.
But he's going to slide in turn 4. He saves it down the apron, and he has no choice but to come down pit road. A masterful job for the 15 to hold on to the car, but at the cost of the race lead.
And
That could have been big.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it here to see the replay. I think you understand the situation, and he definitely chose not to hit the pit road attenuator. That's why he went to pit road. He'll probably get a penalty cleared, but Nate, an incredible save here.
Yeah, we talked about how difficult it is to save these race cars earlier, and he was going for it. We know these tires are a little worn out. He was the guys that stayed out and just starts to lose it mid-corner and just locks it down, especially on that apron transition. That's another thing, across the seams, across the transition, sideways with the way this steering is. Miraculous that he was able to keep that car pointed in the right direction and get it onto pit road instead of into the barrels or back up onto the racetrack.
Watch this.
Shades of Kyle Larson, almost. He might have gotten it slowed down.
You know, if you look at it from a first glance, that's a really good pit road entry under green.
Yeah.
If it was any other situation other than fighting for the lead, it would have been a fantastic entry into pit road, but for James Bomar, it is going to be lost the track position, and he will all the way fall to 25th, and he'll fall as the first car lap down, so he's going to hope that a yellow flies soon, which it does. And all the way at the back, might have been some trouble, as it was Declan George, who may have just taken his Ford Mustang to pit road. And no, not Declan George, but we'll keep an eye on where that caution came up, as they were riding in the middle of this green flag stint.
I think it was right 71.
There. Yeah, Jason Ratchcock overcorrecting into the outside wall. Shades of AJ Hyder. And Nate, really tough there for the 71 of Ratchcock, who had recovered nicely from Phoenix last week. And now here at Homestead, back up against the wall again, as we're not even halfway.
Yeah, of course, he was involved in that incident with Chris Lilly last week, if I recall correctly, and now losing it on the exit of turn 4. I mean, we're beating a dead horse at this point, but it's so treacherous, it's so slick, so slippery out there. And so that was, I think, the longest green flag run we'd had in this race, so not too shocking that as those tires continue to wear down, that someone finally ended up losing it to the point of bringing out a caution.
Well, now with this long green flag run, it begs the question, who will come down pit road, and if they do, who is it going to be? But I believe no one is going to come in this time. A lot of these drivers at the front are now into their 19th or so lap, apart from Brandon Thomas, who will stay out for the moment, and he's going to be on lap 35 of his stint. So as for everyone else, they're on that main strategy. Thomas is looking to stay out as long as he can and potentially save a set here through the first half of this race. And as the rest of the field goes around, it is a good sign for James Bomar, that's for sure, because I believe he is going to get his lap back. Actually, never mind. I believe he is disconnected, so the 15 machine is going to go several laps down. And that's another bad sign, Francisco. Another big-time driver that's going to be out of this race alongside AJ Hyder, Justin Rod, who's multiple laps down, Steven Maggio, who's 19 laps down and still on pit road. And the list really just continues from there.
Yeah, just a very attrition-filled race this has been so far to this point, Kenneth, and not something we normally see out of the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Normally we see a lot of green flag action at this racetrack, so it's very foreign to us to see this many yellows, this much chaos. I think the only other time I remember seeing this many cautions in a race was the 4-wide Orca Series race when they ran here all the way back in Season 3 of that particular series, and we saw all 3 overtimes exhausted on that occasion. So could we be heading in a similar situation as to then? I'm not too sure, but well, at least that was one of our longer runs of the night, so hopefully that's a little bit of a sign of things to come.
Hopefully things improve. We saw that long green flag stretch and the great racing that followed, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get back onto a green flag stint. Maybe have another challenge for the lead like we did between Bomar and Dahari. Let's quickly get a word here with Amir Bascom, and oh, but that's some music. How about an intro there for Amir? Hey, you're right now good in points. You stepped up into the top 16 heading into tonight. What have you made of this race so far behind the wheel?
It is very sketchy. Miami's always been one of my better tracks, so I didn't expect to run this good around here. But I mean, I think I'm a loose track merchant, so the fact that it's loose is helping me a lot right now. But there is some competition in front of me, definitely. Like I feel like I have top 5 pace, maybe top 3. But these guys in front of me have just been there here all race, and it's a struggle to get by these guys. But on the long run, I think I'm faster. So hopefully we get a long run, and I can make spots and hopefully win, because we need to win right now.
That's true, Amir. Best of luck on the restart here. You're starting inside the top 5. So that's Amir Bascombe locking in for the restart here to the green flag. Dahari out in front and steps away, entering turn 1. Jurgensmeyer will follow his train tracks. Connor Trafari will step from the high side of the banking, looking for P2 down the back straightaway.
Good move onto the I side to try to get the momentum, as you see a little bit of a block there by Jurgensmeyer on Trafari. Trafari will move to the bottom, though. Will try to drive it in deep, and he'll try not to get loose into the 0-0. They slowly drift up, and James Thurston has worked his way back into the top 5. Juan Escamilla, after the earlier spin, is in 6th.
We saw James Thurston work his magic earlier on this season at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Didn't result in a win for the 82, but then grabbed the W at the virtual Portland International Raceway, our second and only other road course race we've had this season. Apart from Sonoma, that was won by the car you're watching right now, in Trafari, who's under fire again. Here comes the squad behind him. Jurgensmeyer, Bascombe, Thurston, and even a bit of Juan Escamilla stepping into the top 5. They'll try to take a challenge down the bottom. Thurston peaks near middle 3 wide, and as of lap 65, this is exactly, Nate, what the leader Dahari wants to see. Those top 2 behind him starting to go at it side by side. Now he's away by 4/10.
Yeah, and those two, Trafari and Jurgensmeyer, they've been battling for up and a kind of trading who's running the bottom, who's running the top, and rolling the momentum. And you see, there's the difference right there between the top and the bottom. You see the momentum that Trafari gets down the back straightaway. We'll get another look at this as Trafari's right up on the boards. Saw Jurgensmeyer go all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack, painting the white line. And he got to his inside, and just as they exit the corner, Trafari's got all the momentum. He should be plenty clear now of Jurgensmeyer. And you see that Trafari knows that he's back to the bottom to go try to chase down Gabriel Dahari.
A perfect example, Francisco, of the method to the madness you have to employ on this iRacing Homestead-Miami Speedway. It's not entirely like real life, to which the fastest line is at the very outside wall, to which we've seen Kyle Larson and a lot of the NASCAR Cup Series' best do so to keep up speed and be some of the best cars out there on the racing surface. Here it's mostly about using the high side when it's convenient, and in the case of Trafari, that was a perfectly timed move to go up there to fend off Jurgensmeyer outside turn 4, and he holds on to second.
I will say, though, if ran right, in the right set of circumstances, it can be faster. You probably don't want to do it lap after lap on a 20, 30, 40 lap run. But if it's about 10 to 15 laps, you can probably get away with doing so up there, because if you run it right and limit your mistakes, you can make up a lot of speed. And I think the biggest proof of that was Stephen Maggio in the Drop in the Hammer finale, because he ran down, and I mean ran down, Zachary Hall in those closing laps and had a chance at the win when it didn't look like he was going to get anywhere near there. But that outside lane made huge gains.
And it could be trouble for Trafari, as he's consistently relying on the 20 degrees of banking up there in Homestead, especially here in 1 and 2, where Jurgensmeyer finds the better entry through the apex. It's where Trafari starts to gain that momentum off of the banking to the straightaways, but it's a real question of how long can he keep this act up until it starts to become a little detrimental to the right rear tire. He'll sling back to the bottom, in which Jurgensmeyer will have to now look to the rear view mirror, and that bright colored number 82 nearly getting there. Sideways goes Trafari. Jurgensmeyer points his nose up high.
And there's a little trouble further back. Shockey Tarpley made an escape all the way down to the paint on the front stretch. You're seeing that on the right side of your screen. You also saw the 31 of Reeves get a little loose, so some trouble there as Trafari has now fallen to 4th. Thurston's passed him on the outside. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer clear in the second once again. You saw him making the bottom work pretty much that entire run. He's been pretty true to the bottom. I've been keeping my eye on that 0-0. I still think that he's got a shot at this one as the run gets long.
He's been quick, but he just hasn't been better, at least by not much, to the race leader in Gabriel Dahari. And for Shockey Tarpley, he is also one of those drivers in conversation to be either bumped out or kept into the top 16 in point standings. He runs 27 points to the good. When we took the green flag tonight from Homestead, it has obviously shaken around, knowing that Nicholas Baumann is not in action, that Brad Sawinski has found trouble, that Larry Miles has been kind of up and down all throughout the field, and that Amir Bascombe has spent a bulk of this race running inside the top 10. So it's a matter of time for the league owners to kind of figure out who the top 16 will be. Connor Trafari wiggling the car way loose out of 4 and keeps it straight.
It looks like the tires have kind of gone away on that 9 car, Kenneth. He's starting to struggle for grip, both with the front and the rear, so he's about to be a sitting duck for most of these drivers. How about the racing back here, just inside the top 15? Gabe Cazzola's been working that outside lane and made huge gains. Went from just outside the top 20 to inside the top 15, getting past Austin Doran and Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Now he goes to the bottom, and this is where you really get to see every line used at Homestead, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. Anything that'll give you momentum, as now the field is getting hungry behind Trafari.
You can't run Homestead and be fast without at least having somewhat of an open mind. That's exactly what you're watching on screen from both the left and right side of your screens. Fantastic fights inside the top 4 as Luke Mahone darts the bottom on Connor Trafari and nearly just about cleared him down the back straightaway. But Nate, you were talking to Gabe Cazzola in the moments leading up to this race. What tips did he tell you before we took the green flag tonight from Miami?
He was saying that you got to run the bottom to save tires, and that when you're trying to pass and you're on the end of the run, you need to be up the fence. So it's pretty clear watching that what Gabe Cazzola has decided for himself as James Thurston moves past Jonathan Juergensmeyer. But it's pretty clear that Gabe Cazzola has decided, I need to get up there and rip the fence, get on the boards, and try to get around these guys as I'm further back in the field.
Good points, and especially when you're in traffic with this new next-gen update, clean air matters, and a track like Homestead, when you've got so many options available, it's kind of that why not mentality. Why not move up a little bit, get that clean air, and have a better rotating car? There's the onboard look from
Mahone
spins.
Big crash.
And Mahone is in
got
trouble.
Escamilla again.
He'll catch other drivers in a huge parking lot off of turn 4. Schumacher, Dawn, Reeves, Fabian, and others get collected in the mess. And our largest crash of the night will ensue at lap 74. And just like the one down the back straightaway, Francisco, earlier, it's that 34 car that kicks it off.
He was sideways entering turn 3, and honestly, Kenneth, I think this is an example of the extremities of the aero packing on this service, because you'll see here this 34 car is in front of the 9. The 9 has a run on him, never gets anywhere near his physical bumper, but watch, as soon as the 34 car turns into the corner, he's loose before the banking's even there. So it is very clear that that was a perfect example of the aero packing. Hits the apron, and that's upset the car. He gets into Juan Escamilla. Michael Walls gets a piece of it. Then comes the rest of the field piling in. Schumacher, Doran get a piece of it. A couple other cars getting involved. And I think I've seen aero packing be an effect in real life, Kenneth, but I think this is one of those examples where, at least in its current form, it might be a little bit too much.
And the onboard look from Escamilla shows a similar fate, Nate, to what we saw earlier on with Duncan Fall, right? Thought he was going to get away from it for a moment as the car under him was at the apron, but just ricocheting back up the track, and that's where the problems begin. As the field comes down pit road, Gabriel Jahari will look to lead them out, and he does. But it's just another situation of the car stepping out. Almost also looked like AJ Hyder's spin underneath the race leader tonight.
And we've seen a couple guys lose it in turn 3, really, I guess, in this most recent example, but guys losing it in turn 3 and 4, and they seem like they've got it saved just until they hit that apron transition and they shoot back up the racetrack. So I talked about it when we saw Bomar make the escape down to pit road. I think that just makes it all the more impressive that he was able to keep it straight coming back down across that banking transition. And I believe we have a new leader that stayed out.
We do, and it is the 18 of Gabe Cazzola. So how about the time we talk about him, we jinx him in a good way. He's now in the race lead with 75 laps complete from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Don't go anywhere as race 12 coverage of the SAAC Cup Series in Season 4 continues from South Florida. Actually, we'll step aside for a moment, and we'll actually come back here in just a quick second as we're going to be ready for the 1 green signal. So indeed, we won't be taking a commercial break. We had a moment to step away, but all of the action is keeping us into the action. Gabe Cazzola is going to be choosing the high side. Dahari going to be trailing right behind. And a very fast James Thurston as well, guys. He's been very quick over the course of this race. again stepped out in front of Jonathan Juergensmeyer and was trying to track down Dahari. There could very well be a running case for this 82 car to grab his second victory of the season and become the third driver to have more than one win in 2025.
It'll be interesting to see, because Cazzola's on 15-lap old tires here for this restart. So we saw it obviously didn't hurt too much the leaders on previous restarts, but you have to keep in mind they had about 15, 20 cars on the same strategy, and the cautions are coming out a lot. So it probably was not a whole lot of actual wear on those tires. We had a decent run there, so we'll see how Cazzola fares with the track position, but with older tires.
The margin of difference is 14 laps from Cazzola, who pitted 15 ago, to the rest of the leaders who pitted 1 lap ago, just on this recent yellow flag. So is there a wheel spin for the GameStop Toyota? No, there isn't, and it's a great start to turn 1 for the race leader. Dahari will follow in the tracks, trying to clear himself ahead of Thurston in the middle of 1. Dahari slides up the banking with nowhere to go, 3 wide.
Yeah, one thing that concerns me about Cazzola is, remember, he was ripping the top, so 14 laps on those tires, but it might seem like a lot more with how much he was up on the top of the track.
And look at Dahari saving the car, Francisco. That's another instance of that aero packing rule. Thurston was down the inside, had the nose right to the corner panel, and nearly around Dahari went. Thurston wants more. He's got the lead. New lead change from Homestead-Miami.
And Dahari's going to get right up to his back bumper, but it was the strong enough move with the fresher tires. He'll clear Cazzola easily. Dahari does too. So now move the 18 back to third place as Trafari will try to get up there as well. But look further back. Brandon Thomas now to the inside of the 21 of Amir Bascombe. He's making the move for P7. All the while, Wyatt Roberts, Andretti Robinson, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who had earlier trouble, they're all trying to make comebacks right now.
And here comes Dahari, back for the action, fight to the inside. A heavy combo 1-2 punch that Dahari has dealt all night long. This time, it'll bloody up James Thurston on the inside of 1 and 2, trying the crossover outside the back straightaway. Not going to be successful for now. Dahari back out in front.
Yeah. Great battling we got between Thurston and Dahari, and you see the 18 is continuing to drop back as Thurston rips right to the bottom again in the middle. It's a really good run. Oh, Dahari's up in the wall.
Contact to the wall. He'll save it. And will the rest of the field get around?
Andretti Robinson
yes, they
spins.
will. Now Andretti Robinson spills behind them. Yellow flag out at lap 80 with 54 laps remaining.
Oh my, what a situation there that Gabriel Dahari will now find himself in. He most likely has some kind of damage from that hard impact to the outside wall. Trafari got a piece of it as well. And then separately, the 45 of Andretti Robinson goes for a spin that actually will put us under the caution flag. So here's firstly the incident that happened, battling for the lead. Dahari drifts up. He's racing with Thurston. He steps out on his own, so nothing of the 82's doing. And then he might have bounced off the 82 into the outside wall. Trafari, you see the right front damage to his cars now. Everybody's trying to avoid them, but luckily for those two, the caution flag waves and they don't lose a lot of track position. They can fix the damage. And now here's the trouble to the 45 of Andretti Robinson, Nate.
Yeah, I think we've seen it so many times. Yeah, looks like he got the seam there a little bit. Had it woe down, then hit the banking transition and went perpendicular. Looks like everyone just about got past him without much incident. So we'll have another caution. We'll rack him up again.
And that will leave the option for a lot of drivers, guys, to come down pit road. One of them being Gabriel Dahari. So he is looking to repair that damage on the right side of his car and potentially get a fresh set of Goodyear Eagles. He's been down there for a little while now, so he's just going to reassure that his car is clean and green for the rest of this race as we're more than halfway through inside the final 53, but that could have nearly been much more disastrous than it ever was, Francisco, because we've seen countless times if you get loose on the outside of a driver, you come down the banking to that quarter panel, you can turn them right up into the wall and carry you both hard into the fence and give you guys the race over. Basically too much damage, but thankfully Dahari had bounced off in the right way, to which he had his car straight enough to where he would still hit the wall, but he wouldn't collect anyone else in it. I think the biggest loser out of all of that is Connor Trafari. Got big time right front damage just from that one checkup from Dahari.
The way I see it is that if I was in the position of the 82 and Dahari went with that spin and hit me in the right rear, it would have sent me into the outside wall too. That's just the way it goes, or the way it feels like sometimes. But Thurston, very lucky, really, to not end up in a bad spot with the contact that Dahari had there. Now he has to fix his damage. There you see the damage being fixed on the 9. It appears he might have a little bit there still, but luckily for him, I don't think it's nearly as bad as what Dahari has on his race car, because that was a lot harder of an impact to the outside wall compared to what the 9 had to deal with to the main part of the racetrack. But I will say both of them fixed their cars, and they haven't lost too many positions on the racetrack because of just how much attrition there is, with only 21 cars on the lead lap total. And I think less than half of them probably have gotten any damage in this race, if at that. So you look at this top 10 running right now, it is a wide open race. As on your screen is currently how the bracket challenge looks like, and guess which one of those drivers is currently leading? And you're correct to say Ethan Fonseca-Moreno, who's just been battling quietly ever since his early troubles.
Yeah, he came down pit road, he was at the back of the field, had gotten through some of the yellow flags without damage, and now he runs 6th, but not entirely by so much. Ollie Reeves is sitting back in 11th, so there could be a fight there. We saw Cody Rivera's down pit road. He's further back in 18th place, and the Connor Trafari car, we saw him in pit road. He is now almost lapped down in 21st position. So back to the green flag we'll go. James Thurston this time in control with a hard-charging Michael Walls from the top shelf. Green flag waves. Cazzola, the second car on the outside, remains out on the track without coming down to pit road, and it's a prime opportunity for the other Ford Mustang in the top 3, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, to get second.
Jurgensmeyer wrapped the bottom, couldn't quite clear Michael Walls, and this is really the first we've called Michael Walls' name other than we were talking about the LSU Tigers. But he's been pretty quiet in this one, so it's nice to see him up here in the top 2, top 3, as Gabe Cazzola is just trying to hang on to track position on the older tires. James Thurston rockets away from Walls and Jurgensmeyer.
What a run from up top by the LSU car of Michael Walls, is able to fend off Jurgensmeyer, looking for the next best opportunity to chase on Thurston. But for right now, no real moves made in the top 3. There's Cazzola trying to hold off Amir Bascom, and Moreno, who wants to stay hidden, doesn't really want to be in the spotlight too much right now to avoid any troubles. He'll dart down the bottom shelf as the cars upside hit the outside wall. There goes Bascom behind. Moreno noses in front. Off turn 4.
Ollie Reeves
and
spins.
the spinner, Ollie Reeves.
Once
That's another
again.
one Oh, and he almost gets hit.
Just about. Got tapped from Brad Sawinski, the passing car. And once again, will reside with the yellow flag in hand. Lap number 85. And this time it's one of those midseason bracket challenge drivers. And those final 4 drivers are usually highlighted on the windshield banner by their blue color, but Ollie Reeves didn't have it on his paint scheme, and just as simple as that, Nate, contact off turn 4, but dangerously enough, that was right in front of Gabriel Dahari.
Yeah, and you saw him get just a little bit of damage there, as I believe that was the 28 of Sawinski that snuck past him on the outside. Lots of trouble for these guys in the midseason madness Final 4. And it looks like we've got a lot of takers on pit road, including Gabe Cazzola, who finally comes in for 4 fresh Goodyears. I'm sure that he'll be thankful to have some fresh tires on that one after staying out for so long.
But not all of them. Francisco, you took notice of that. Ethan Fonseca-Moreno and Amir Bascom are going to lead the field. They are on 11-lap-old tires. They feel like coming down is not worth the sacrifice.
Oh, well, we've seen how the caution flags have fared in this race. I will say, crucially, in the same breath, that if you pit now, you could probably get to the end of the race on fuel. So I don't think any of these guys are really paying attention to that and just knowing how much tires wear, but also just how many sets have they taken. I think a lot of these leaders have maybe taken 2 throughout this race. This is probably the 3rd set. A lot of these drivers have just bolted on, the ones that pitted. So you parlay that with the fact that there might be another caution in about 20 laps. You might want to put another set. Do you have any for an overtime restart? So I think that starts becoming a real question for some of these drivers, and it's some tough choices you're going to have to make. You might want to sacrifice earlier than later.
It's a fair play to try to have those tires waiting for you when a late race restart comes out if you believe it's going to happen. But some of them have been on different cycles. Amir Bascom has pitted a total of twice in this race, while Moreno, Brandon Thomas, and some others have pitted 3 or so times. And then you look at guys like Shockey Tarpley here running inside the top group alongside Connor Zola behind him. They have pitted 5 times, but that's not because they have wasted all their tire sets. It's because they've spent a lot of that time repairing their cars. Tarpley and Zola have been involved in accidents so far this evening from Homestead, so they've spent a lot of that time making sure their cars could be back into tip-top shape. There's optional repair and the mandatory repairs you have to make on a race car here in iRacing. I believe a lot of it was optional, maybe a bit mandatory for those two, but not entirely descriptive of their journey in and out of pit road for tires. They probably still have a couple of sets waiting for them, with still a bulk of this race to go. And it will be Amir Bascom at the front of this field alongside Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Shockey Tarpley, Brandon Thomas, and Connor Zola, the current top 5. And for one thing to note, we saw James Thurston pit from the lead. He did not take tires. A 5.4 second stop, fuel only for the 82 car. He'll drop all the track position with no real gain other than a couple splashes, and he'll be back in 14th when we drop for this restart.
It's an interesting call to not take tires there. I'm curious to know what his tire sets looked like and if he's thinking we're going to see more and more cautions throughout the rest of this run.
Well, here we go. Lap 88 and 2 Chevrolets at the front. The bow ties of Bascom and Moreno will lead him through the United Rentals restart zone. Back underway from Homestead-Miami.
And a good launch there for Bascom to take over the race lead. Moreno will immediately jump to the very outside lane, trying to see if he can build a run to defend anybody from being able to mount a charge, and he gets a great run at that, so he won't be in fear of losing P2 for the time being. But there you see Brandon Thomas side by side with Shockey Tarpley. There's the 13 of Connor Zola, and Brian Lorenzo making an appearance in the top 10. Tarpley into the outside wall. He's going to get taken almost 4 wide here.
And it will be 3 wide still at the exit of 4 and into the top 10. Cracks Gabriel Dahari, James Thurston down the bottom, Malachi Drake, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. They are all over the place in turn 1.
Yeah, Shockey Tarpley lost a lot of momentum getting the wall up there in turns 3 and 4. And you're seeing all the different lines you can run at Homestead-Miami Speedway. You might be able to fit 4 cars right next to each other, but there's 6, 7 lines across this racetrack, and you're seeing them all in use right there.
And Thurston holds off Dahari for the
Oh,
meantime.
Zola
Again,
sideways.
fuel only. Zola sideways behind. Can he save it?
He's
No,
all the
he
way around
can't.
now.
Yellow flag.
Yeah, it looked like he might have had it woed back up, and then he just had a little bit of contact from the 24 walls.
And there's another caution inside 44 laps to go. And thankfully, Connor Zola does not add on to the damage list, as he was split in the middle. 3 cars loose in the middle of the corner, and he's just trying to save it. Francisco, turns 3 and 4 have been such a big trouble spot, and I don't know if you can attribute that to the fact that the sun is still beaming out there in 3 and 4. We've seen that over the course of the day, this dynamic track changes, the weather changes as well, and so the shadows can kind of cover 1 and 2, but we haven't seen much of the same on the back end of the speedway. And for Zola, just in the middle of that traffic, goes for the spill. Rather harmless, thankfully, and he doesn't pick up any more damage.
When we started this race, the track temperature was just about 112 degrees or so, and right now it's 105, so it hasn't really cooled down much at all since the initial drop of the green flag. So it's still very tough out there in sim. It's also August, and for those of you who are not local to South Florida in August, hot.
Yeah, and humid as well. And you have the possibilities of hurricanes coming through, because hurricane season is just about started. So we're kind of in the middle
I mean, just
of... You know, I tell people, Francisco, that if they want to visit Miami, the best time of year is around October, November, December, because that's when the weather's nicest. If the people want to come through the summertime because it's summer and it's hot and it's a chance to refresh and go to the beach, I tell them, do not, by any means, go through the summer months.
Oh, no, absolutely. That is correct. South Florida, in the month after May, it is just horrendous just how bad it is. I mean, this week alone, Kenneth, today, I kind of got lucky. I was able to go play basketball with a couple of coworkers because it was just cloudy. But yesterday, there was so much rain yesterday, and it sometimes gets bad enough that people forget how to drive.
Yeah, it's rough, and sometimes those showers come in. When it rains, it pours. It gets really bad. The thunderstorms start kicking in. I don't want to be that person that starts talking smack to our hometown, but that's why a lot of the best Homestead races have happened in November when it's the championship race, because the weather is beautiful. It's a crisp 72, 73 degrees out, and you've got a bit of the wind when the sun starts to set and the nightfall creeps in. So you get a really good weather condition for a NASCAR track that really provides some great racing in real life. While Amir Bascom continues to lead, he's got a shot to go after his first career SAAC Cup Series victory. We saw that happen earlier this season with the likes of Gabriel Dehari winning at Las Vegas. And then Ethan Fonseca-Moreno, who has rattled off several wins already this year, is looking for career win number 5 of the season. Brandon Thomas, Brian Lorenzo are going to try to make themselves contenders here, but still a rather long way to go. And Nate, I'd imagine that if we go green here, it's going to be about all of that strategy. It may be very close on fuel as we're concerned, but tires seem to be the biggest problem with everybody losing their cars for the most part.
Yeah, I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't really see a world where we go green the rest of the way. It's just been such a chaotic race. We've gotten to 20 or so laps in a run, and the tires just get so worn. I think someone's bound to lose it, especially as the intensity ramps up here at the end of this one.
So we'll get a look at this front row again, where it's Amir Bascom and Ethan Fonseca-Moreno that will hold the front row starting spot when we get back to this green flag restart at lap number 93. The two Chevrolets will wait for the restart zone to kick in. They'll be back underway in just a moment. We've seen that lead car be so good off of these green flag restarts, and there it is. Once again, Amir Bascom is able to challenge ahead. He clears his nose to turn 1. Moreno also clears. Brandon Thomas and Brian Lorenzo, they'll kick it out for 3rd. And James Thurston trying to slice his way back into the group down the inside.
How about Brian Lorenzo and Brandon Thomas to get themselves up in the top 5? And how about the 90 of Malachi Drake? We haven't really called his name today at all, and he runs inside this top 10. Remember, he was almost in contention of winning that Charlotte race earlier in the season on an alternative fuel-saving strategy and ran out off of turn 4. If the 90 car can have a successful run here tonight and take over and win this race, that would push him into the postseason.
Trying to recover after a 20th place finish in our last trip here to Homestead back in season number 3. And on the way outside of turn 2 is the Mission Chevrolet. Here comes Moreno darting down the bottom. He'll fake into turn 3. Power down the outside. Moreno looking for the top spot in turn 4.
Yeah, he rifled it in there, and he's going to have to get it woed back up as he saw that outside wall fast approaching. Couldn't quite get to Bascom. He's going to have to line it back up. He dives to the inside of turn 1, not all the way to the white line. About a lane up just on top of the seam. Does Bascom have enough momentum? He does not. Ethan Fonseca-Moreno is clear, and here comes Bascom fighting back to the inside.
The crossover down the back straightaway will work for the Celsius Peach Vibe Chevrolet. Down the bottom in 3 and 4. Moreno will try and hold the defensive wall. Can he keep that momentum up there? Yes, he can. Dart back to the high valley. Moreno back to the lead.
What a battle between these two teammates to go for the top spot like this, and you saw them use different lines to try and get different advantages at different moments in time, and ultimately for Moreno it worked out to his favor. And now Amir Bascom is going to have to look into his mirror, because now here shows up to the party the number 7 and the number 82 trying to make it a 3-way battle for second.
And the top two drivers that last season could have asked for better races at Homestead. Moreno ended up finishing 25th after rolling off 36. And then for Amir Bascom, had to start inside the top 10, ran well until he ended up with a 32nd place finish. So it's newfound life for these two cars at the front of this field, but still some contenders wanting to change up the script and the storyline. There's James Thurston right on the boards with Gabriel Dehari to follow, looking for P2 down the straightaway. He'll hold back for now.
I was going to say, start cueing the Jaws theme, because those guys that were so dominant earlier in the race, like Dehari, Thurston, of course, showed up a little bit later, are coming really, really fast up to the back of the 92. Thurston side by side with Bascom for second. He should get by him soon.
There's the onboard look on the right side from Bascom's perspective.
Oh, he's going to get the wall.
He'll get it there. Inside goes Thurston. The Ford Mustang will nose ahead for a slight moment, and that's exactly what Moreno wanted to see. More time between the two. Now over 3 car lengths as they chase to turn 3. Remember, we're coming down to the final 36 laps of this race from Homestead, so this could be the game-winning run. If you're any one of these drivers at the front trying to hold out on strategy, Thurston with a wonderful dive, spinning down low is Wyatt Roberts. He saves it, will stay green.
And you see now Thurston's going to have a chance to try and make a move on Moreno. You can see why Bascom got the wall too. He tried to go to the bottom, then chose late to change his line, but did not adjust properly. And there's Thurston with a run to the inside, side by side for the lead and side by side for third.
Remember, Thurston did not take 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles on his last trip to his pit stall. It was 5.4 seconds. It happened 13 laps ago, and he only took fuel. So it is just a mano-a-mano battle on a set of Goodyear Eagles that is starting to wear down. Spinner behind. Cody Rivera, outside turn 4.
He's had himself a lot of trouble in this one. Mid-season madness has not been kind to him here at Homestead-Miami.
You know what they call karma, and for Cody Rivera, it looks like all that good luck that was used up early in this race had started to go away. So here he was at the back of the field. This was inside the top 10. Rivera again running for the $100 of the midseason bracket challenge, and he is a former winner here at Homestead way back in, I believe, season 0. And it's the culprit of the day, Francisco aero packing with the car right behind, and that was Michael Walls. Here's a look from Rivera. That nose crosses the rear bumper, and that's way more than enough to get Rivera out of shape. And then obviously everyone in the middle of the group, Larry Miles getting a touch, and just those drivers at the back trying to escape the carnage. A lot of them can, a lot of them cannot. And Rivera has had a rough one tonight from Homestead-Miami. He will revisit pit road as the $100 chance is starting to slip away quite a bit.
And Moreno's into the pit lane as well. I think he just bolted on right side tires, did. Yes, he did. So the 92 machine will roll off of pit road, and he'll still stay inside the top 10 with fresher tires. I actually think this is a good call. Gabriel Dehari's and everybody else takes 4. Moreno with 2. I'm not sure.
Last week.
He did, though I must say that unless he took fuel, which I don't think he did, if he didn't take fuel, that actually could work out in his favor, because one thing I do want to mention is that with the setups on iRacing, if you don't take fuel or you have lesser fuel inside your race car, it will have a tendency to make the car a little bit tighter, especially the less amount of fuel it is. So I think Moreno, knowing he's safe to the end, probably didn't get any additional fuel into the car. Taking those right side tires might not make him all that loose, gives him track position, and it actually could help the overall balance of the car in terms of not worrying about the car stepping out under him.
Maybe just a splash of fuel. I wouldn't say it was a full tank given to Moreno, but in 9.8 seconds, that is enough time to not only put on those 2 tires, but to add on just a tad bit of fuel. And that could be a winning strategy to try and hold out on strategy, and that play of course, trying to make sure that car is lighter versus being way heavier. And that physics characteristic can change a lot of things on these iRacing machines. As we'll double up for the restart with James Thurston in control, Michael Walls back in second, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer third. Gabe Cazzola has resurfaced to be 4th place. And then from 5th on back is where a lot of those guys had come down pit road. Actually 6th on back, with Fidel Fabian staying out on this round of yellow flag stops. Amir Bascom, Gabriel Dehari, Brian Lorenzo, and basically everyone else behind had taken their shot at 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles inside the final 32 laps. And remember, like you said, Nate, it was a strategy that Moreno had used at Phoenix to take the lead on a set of 2 tires only. The only problem was they had gone green for the rest of the way, and then a late caution came out, and it was those who stayed out that reaped the rewards, while Moreno had to stay back and deal with his frustrations trying to carve through the field, and ultimately a huge crash that happened as they were coming to the white flag. So the restart here, inside 32 to go from South Florida. James Thurston, who has been one of the standout drivers of the night, will let the field wait. They tried to jump the restart. Michael Walls will have his nose to the outside. They'll be door-to-door in turn 1.
And a good restart there from most of the field. Moreno already peeking to the middle, trying to see if he could take it 3 wide. Dahari's in the middle of the 3 wide mess as well. He's going to have a run. Fabian getting loose there off of turn 2. You see some 3 and 4 wide occasionally popping through the back straightaways. They fan out, but out front, James Thurston, great restart. Walls running the outside in front of Gabe Cazzola. Jurgensmeyer and Dahari trying to make the bottom mark.
And Nate, if you are those two tire call, your 4-tire car, on this set of strategy, you got to be really careful about where you point your nose, as they're nearly 4 wide in the middle of turn 1. They're going to try and flush down Jurgensmeyer and Cazzola down the back straightaway.
Yeah, when you got brand new tires and you're chasing down guys with older tires or less fresh tires, you gotta be careful, because you could be going so much quicker than them and just run them over. You get into their wake faster than you think you would, and we've seen that wake upset cars. You got to be very, very, very deliberate with the battles that you pick and choose as you work your way through the field, but you can't be that deliberate because you've only got 30 laps to go should this race run green.
You want to have that balance, Francisco, of keeping a high pace and moving through traffic, and then also saving enough tires to which you don't burn them up too much in this run, and you start to give yourself a chance against James Thurston. That, of course, if this race remains green. For Dahari, no real step out in front of Michael Wallace. He's trying to build up that momentum, and it's slowly working in his favor, but slow is not going to cut it at this juncture of the race.
And you got to remember, though, Dahari, even though it wasn't an issue on the 82's part, when he gets back up to the race leader, they had contact at some point during that battle, and it resulted in the 72 having to go back up through the field. So he's going to try and make the pass and not worry about any aerodynamic games playing a role in him having a similar issue. So as he gets past this 24 car, expect him to not try to play around with the 82 too much.
And he's going to look for the proper line, and to which we point, how defensive does James Thurston get on the old set of tires? Is he willing to block Dahari as much as possible to avoid that 72 car making his way forward? Or does it seemingly become an easy pass for the car right behind us? Here's nearly 3 wide inside the top 6. That's Cazzola, Drake, and the inside car, Ramir Bascom.
They fanned out 3 wide on the front straightaway, got it sorted out by the midway point of the corner, and Bascom backed off of that battle, but he's had one of the fastest cars all night long. He's certainly going to be able to get by these cars eventually with so much more pace than Drake and Cazzola.
What a run this would be for Malachi Drake, being involved in several accidents earlier on tonight. And after nearly having a shot to win Charlotte Motor Speedway under strategy earlier this season, it's a shot at a 1.5 mile track to which Drake can lock up a top 10 car and be in a very good point standings position. As up in front, and now a spinner. That's Gabe Cazzola down the back straightaway, turned around in the front end of the field, and that will surefire bring the yellow flag out with 26 laps to go.
Looks like hit contact with him and Bascom is what sent the 18 around. Might be a misjudgment on part of the 21 because it was right as they exit the corner, so we'll have to take a second look at it. But I think it's pretty clear the 21 just drifts up a little bit too much and gets into the left rear of the 18 off the corner.
Yeah, and it didn't look intentional there, Nate. Just trying to side draft and keep Cazzola honest entering turn 3. And it was just a matter of them getting just a bit too close. We'll see if we can get a better look at it down the straightaway. But it's Cazzola running with all that momentum up top. Amir Bascom trying to settle him back. And it's right there, that merge of line.
Yeah, and I was going to say Cazzola definitely had a little bit of help getting around. He was able to keep it out of the inside wall. A second week in a row, he's been able to keep the car fairly clean when in trouble. The 21 of Bascom, he just tried to get up there, side draft, and that's the intensity part of this that we talk about. Late in the runnings, Bascom, he's had top 5 pace, and he knows that he's been faster all race than these guys, so he's going to start pushing a little harder because it's a little more frustrating when you can't get by these guys, and that's a byproduct of that intensity, is you just overstep a little bit and it can cause problems.
And look at that down pit road, Francisco. James Thurston, who went for fuel only on his last stop, is going to give in, pull the trigger, and get some 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles on his car. Not to say how much track position he will lose here, but late in this race with 24 to go, Dahari's in a great spot.
I don't know if that's the move I would have made. I know he was going to lose the race lead eventually to these tires, but he's going to be outside the top 10, and the tire difference isn't going to be all that much greater compared to what they had relative to him. It's only about 9 laps for most of the field compared to his now fresh tires. And honestly, Kenneth, when we go back to racing, he has to drive his way through the field and go back up and try to contend for this win. Once in these final 20 or so laps, I don't think he has enough time to get up there. If it goes green, he's going to need help from cautions, but not just cautions in general. He'll need a run that's about 15 to 20 laps long enough, maybe just before green-white checkered, to even consider this being a viable strategy for him to do something different than the leaders who would most likely come in for their last set. And someone just blew up.
Yeah, just heard an engine expire. And we saw Ethan Fonseca-Moreno hit the outside wall under pacing, but he's okay, so I don't know who that might have been. We heard that engine go poof. I guess it'll be a mystery. We'll figure out who that is, but we will double up for the restart regardless, as Dahari controls. Moreno on the outside, Micah Walls and Malachi Drake third and fourth. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer just squeaking into the top 5. And then right behind, that's where Amir Bascombe and Shockey Tarpley will take front hold inside this top 6.
And I think I found it. Looks like it was
the
the 34. It looks like it was the 34 of Luke Mahone. 36 laps down, was just kind of chilling there, and then you see the smoke all of a sudden go poof. So he left the car on, and that's what happens when you leave the car on. Eventually, it just gets hot from just sitting under this bright sunlight.
What a tough fate for Luke Mahone. He's had plenty good runs throughout this night. You know, we look at how he got loose down the back straightaway and up inside the top group, and then recovered to get back into the same place, and then ending up in another situation and a crash again. And that really had sealed his fate from there. So a really rough outing for the 34 of Mahone, who had also faced trouble last week at the virtual Phoenix Raceway. And just an update on those running in the mid-season bracket challenge. And for the final round, Amir Bascombe continues to hold on to the front running spot. I believe not Amir Bascombe, actually. It's Ethan Fonseca-Moreno who runs inside the top 3. A little bit of a blunder. Green flag, 23 to go.
And a blunder there for Ethan on the restart. Does not get that great of a launch. Falls down to 4th. Immediately will jump up to his outside lane like he's been doing on many restarts tonight. He'll see if he can battle Jurgensmeyer back for 3rd, but it's Michael Walls that gets a great launch and moves his way up into 2nd. You see Jurg actually give Ethan the outside. He wants to run the bottom, and that could be all that 92 needs to gain that spot back. He's going to have the 24 in front, but he's going to get a huge run here. As look at the racing behind with Amir Bascombe trying to get up to 5th ahead of Malachi Drake. The battle inside the top 10 is great.
And not sure what happened to Moreno there, Nate. It looked like he didn't react in enough time. The car just didn't giddy up as much as he would like it to, and it just tallied him back to about 4th to 5th place. Just now is where he's starting to regain that momentum.
Yeah, we saw some restart games get played last time they took the green flag, and Moreno just obviously wasn't playing games there, but perhaps anticipating them, just completely lost out.
Oh, we've got 4 wide, 5 wide, and they're wrecking.
Oh, huge wreck.
And around goes Duncan Fall. Brandon Thomas nearly got collected. And the yellow flies with 20 laps to go. And just like I was seeing there, Francisco, 5 wide was not going to work.
I saw 3 wide, then I momentarily saw 4 wide. I was watching as the contact was inevitable, and I felt like I had to say something, and sure enough, it was right in time, because as Brandon Thomas was going sideways, they were 5 wide. I can't say I've seen too many 5 wide here at Homestead. I've certainly seen in Xfinity restarts, but there you see the overhead, easy 4 wide in the corner, but they all start converging off the corner. They split the 7, and you don't hear the spotters call 4 wide. He definitely won't call 5 wide.
And James Thurston had been fighting his way down the inside. Again, he's on the fresh tires, so his main mission is to get up to the front as quickly as physically possible. And really, there's nothing that Duncan Fall nor Brandon Thomas can do to get away from it, because 5 cars from left to right here at Homestead, it's possible, but it's very sketchy, and especially off a corner like this, such a long exit, you don't know where everyone is. The spotter's not going to tell you that, but they collide. Thankfully, it doesn't get much worse for everyone else. But for Duncan Fall, second real time that he's been around at this juncture of the speedway, like we saw him in that incident with Juan Escamilla earlier on tonight. So once again, Gabriel Dahari will have to feel the brunt of another yellow flag, slowing down his progress to his 2nd career SAAC Cup Series victory. And Nate, if you're the race leader, are you frustrated about this, or do you seem to be a little more relaxed knowing that at least the field is frozen and you can't get a spot taken away from you when there are so many caution flags?
I would say it depends on two things. One, how good am I at restarts? And two, do I have the fastest car? Now, it was pretty obvious early in this race that Dahari had the fastest car, but I might say right now that James Thurston is the one who would have something for him should he be able to get back through the field. So I would not be liking seeing the cautions. I want to have James Thurston need to work through the traffic as much as possible without the field getting re-racked so I can drive away. And of course, as always, the 92 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who has really come to life in the second half of this race. He struggled early, but he's been fighting ever since he got himself into the top 5, top 3. But if I was Gabriel Dahari right now, I would want this race to stay green as long as possible.
And if it comes down to the choose cone, Moreno's going to have to hope here, Nate, that Michael Walls doesn't choose the inside, because if you're going to be that leading car up top, you got to be at the mercy of whatever the race leader does, going whenever they want in the restart zone. And countless times we've seen that second car right behind the leader get such a good jump to which usually they can clear the third place car from the top, but they can also get a good enough jump on the leader if they're able to do so. And it all comes down to this, as Dahari hopes that he can keep his defense lively and go at it for his second dub and second consecutive win at a 1.5 mile track. Here's the choose cone. Walls predictably chooses the bottom. Moreno will have no choice but to go up top, trying to gain some lucky real estate. And as for James Thurston, he had restarted this event before our last caution came out beneath the top 15. He's now up to the top 7. So more progress
Kenneth,
and lots of time.
And I beg this suggestion to you. How much is Gabriel Dahari hoping to see if Michael Walls is willing to help him on these restarts in an effort to stave off Ethan Fonseca Moreno?
I'm sure he would love a lot of that help. Not to say that they're in a voice chat with each other, but perhaps they're maybe devising a plan to time the restart and get the best of Moreno, who has, like we've seen, been the most dominant driver of the series so far. Multiple race victories across several different types of tracks, and now looking for another golden horseshoe to his list of many checkered flags this year. He'll be on the outside of the front row, but all eyes on Gabriel Dahari to control the running to the green flag with 17 laps to go. Malachi Drake and Michael Walls will have to watch and wait and hopefully try and help. As the pace car comes down, they'll chase towards the United Rentals restart zone once more from virtual South Florida, and the B-Movie Chevrolet, trying to search for his second career dub, is going to stay put fourth, and Michael Walls is going to give him the push of a lifetime. Moreno can't quite stay within second place. Green flag restart.
And look at the 3 and 4 wide back in just outside the top 10. Gabe Gazzola in the middle of that whole mess, but I think that restart proves my point, Kenneth, because Walls, not only did he get a great launch, he was right on the bumper of the 72.
All the way behind. Spinner, Connor Zola, and others are involved. Brian Lorenzo, no. Dunham and David. Well, there is Lorenzo. Cody Rivera's in it as well. I saw the turn off of the second corner. And there's the damage to David.
It'll be interesting to see what happened here in the hornet's nest of everything as they came off of turn 2. And you know what they say, it's never been more true tonight. Cautions breed cautions.
And they were 3 wide. Cody Rivera's down the middle. How about 4 wide as well? Wyatt Roberts and Larry Miles up the top. There's Rivera and Miles making the contact. And they just come right down into David. Nothing that the 4 car can do to get away from it. Connor Zola just about hit the brakes at the right time. Brian Lorenzo had nowhere to go as the spinning Rivera got into him. And it's as simple as that. You can't really fit that many cars around here at Homestead and expect that you'll give each other enough space unless it's a better established 4 wide. But off the corner, just not quite easy. So for Dahari, he'll have to wait and try and hope that potentially the rest of this race can continue green. But Francisco, that was a fantastic restart by both him and Michael Walls. So I guess it boosts our theory that they're trying to work together on this start to hold off the 92.
We'll see if they're able to replicate that same kind of restart. And I think Dahari's happy doing that. It's like you said, they're not in a voice chat together, but you can use the iRacing text channels to privately message another driver. That's probably what Dahari's doing. He's probably telling the 24, hey, I'm going early. Hey, I'm going late. Something along those lines. And that's probably where he's trying to make his make his time up and get the better launch of the 92. And obviously Moreno won't know that. In this league, they're not teammates, so they're having to fight against one another in a little bit more difficult way. So that's really going to hurt the 92. But I also know DeHarvey's doing that because he wants to win this race. He's trying to go to victory lane once more. So if he can keep Ethan Fonseca Moreno at bay and arguably keep the 24 and 92 battling each other, well, that's going to be even better for him.
And Michael Walls, what a successful story this could be if he ends up at the front of this field and finds a way to victory lane. He's had several shots at being up at the front, but we've seen multiple times kind of shakiness overall, and he's got 4 career SAAC Cup Series victories, his most recent coming from all the way back, I believe several seasons ago, in which he was able to win. Not entirely seeing one now, so I don't think he's got any. I'm looking at the wrong stat. He's got no wins in SAAC Cup Series history, so he's looking for his first, and he's trying to match Gabriel Dehari, who already picked up his first at Las Vegas. It's been a long one tonight from Homestead. Please excuse me. 13 to go for the next restart.
Though, he got his first 4-wide win from Daytona, which is about 300 miles up north from the Homestead-Miami Speedway, so maybe another first one comes in the state of Florida?
Maybe, and remember how wild that finish was. He was 9th off turn 4 and just scurried away from the big one off the final corner. I know, Francisco, those memories are still a little bit fresh in your mind, but it was a fantastic finish, and Walls was able to escape to the victory. He's got a lot of momentum there. Going to try and carry it here, but he's going to have one man to beat, and it's Gabriel Dehari if they get another great restart like they did before our most recent yellow came out. So it's 13 laps to go from Homestead-Miami. Again, the watch for the regular season finale and those top 16 that we'll get in. Right now, Amir Bascombe, in a top 10 run all night long, is going to be in a position to stay within the top 16. Still a question mark as to who will have P16. Larry Miles, Brad Sawinski have been at it all night long. I believe Larry may have the upper edge, and it won't be any surprises to knock anyone out and have them go home in the fight for the championship. There's the green flag, a good jump by the leader, but not as great of a launch for the LSU car behind. He will clear now into turn 1. Jurgensmeyer fires off under Moreno for 3rd.
It was a better launch overall for Moreno, and Michael Walls is drifting up. It's going to box Moreno. Here comes Jurgensmeyer and Trifari.
And he's got help from that 9 car behind, who's won the last 2 races in a row. Behind them in the rearview mirror, they're 3 wide to turn 3. James Thurston has time to breathe. Michael Walls is in the wall. He's sliding.
Sideways.
Does he spin? Yes, he does. He'll hit the outside wall, and he'll take Amir Bascombe with him.
And piling in is the 42 of Wyatt Roberts last second, trying to hold the brakes, and the car spun out under him from just how much rear brake he had. And unfortunately, that good run for Walls is coming to an end. Amir Bascombe has got some pretty good front end damage to his race car. Oh, man.
And that is not the situation that Amir Bascombe would want to see. There was his camera, his reaction after the crash, and it was Michael Walls who got a little bit too eager in turn 3, hit the outside wall, Nate, and that's exactly all that she wrote. He was loose from the get-go after tapping the wall, tried to save it, but there's just too much traffic underneath to escape clean.
Yeah, and he had the 92 right in his bumper all the way in the corner. You see him tap the wall loose, and nowhere to go for Amir Bascombe, who we've been talking about. He was fast all night. Of course, he had that run-in with the 18 of Cazzola, but that's a rough end to his night, especially for someone who's hovering above that eliminator chase cut line. Here's the onboard.
And look how close Moreno got. And the same could go, Francisco, for James Thurston. I mean, he's on the fresh tires. He's trying to cut his teeth in the middle of the group. He sees a car coming down the banking, and technically there's contact, but it's not enough to register damage to the 82.
Yeah, it was really close. Here's another look at it. Oh, man. That could have easily gone both ways. It looks very much similar to the incident earlier with Gabriel Dehari. So, really close calls here for the 82 in the last couple laps.
And the good news for Thurston is that not only does he escape being involved in that crash, he gains an extra spot from Moreno having to whoa up. So now Thurston, in his pursuit to get back to the front, he's up to P5. Coming to 10 laps to go, Nate. I'd say that's a good proposition if you're car number 82 because you've had enough time to move up to the field. Now you've got 4 more cars to beat.
Yeah, and he's been so fast. Now, we're not going to have a long run to end this race, only 11 to go, but I might say Thurston has been better on the quicker, shorter runs, it took to about probably 15 laps before Dahari really started to show his muscle on the runs earlier this race. So Thurston's got 3 cars before he can battle Dahari, and we'll see if that gets any closer on the choose. He takes the bottom, and we know just how good that bottom's been on these restarts. We could very well be seeing Thurston in 3rd place before they get to turn 1.
And watch out from that outside lane, because none other than Connor Trafari is there. And the last time we were here at Homestead-Miami Speedway back in Season 3, November of 2024, Trafari had led 15 laps after starting 3rd. He finished runner-up to the winner, Jordan Kuntz. So Trafari, who's been on the high horse for the last several weeks, winning at Talladega and at Phoenix, he's going to try and knock off one more before this regular season comes to a close, but it's in a pretty vulnerable spot outside of row 1, where Moreno hasn't been able to keep up with Dahari lately. Does anything change with this 9 machine, as Malachi Drake and Jonathan Juergensmeyer will watch on? Hopefully they can try and get around and make this a proper fight inside the final 10. Dahari looking for his 2nd SAAC Cup Series victory. Trafari looking for his 5th. Jonathan Juergensmeyer right behind looking for another. Malachi Drake trying to spoil the party. And then there's the high hitters of Moreno and James Thurston. One on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. The other trying to recover after nearly getting involved in an accident. 9 left from Homestead-Miami. There goes Dahari, pushed by Juergensmeyer to the front.
Good restart again for Gabriel Dahari, but Juergensmeyer gets a really good launch as well. He might try to keep intact with the 72. If he could just get close enough to Dahari to get him aerodynamically sideways, that could be all the 00 needs to be in contention for this win, as there's Thurston and Trafari working together, trying to see if they can close up the battle to the front.
What a restart by James Thurston, as Moreno tried to chase it 3 wide. On the other end of Malachi Drake, Thurston brushes the wall outside turn 4. Will stay green for now. No trouble behind them, as Juergensmeyer rattles within a car length to the race leader.
All the way down, painting the white line like he's been doing the entire race. Gets a little close on the exit of turn 2, and then is going to get right in line behind the 72. And here's Thurston with a head of steam down the backstretch. He might try something on Juergensmeyer per second. He'll take the outside as Juergensmeyer drops down to the bottom again.
And the difference in tires is a lot. 9 laps to the race leader, and even more to Jonathan Juergensmeyer, who is on lap 41 of his stint so far. Connor Trafari and Malachi Drake will try and square it out for 4th on back, but Juergensmeyer is getting just a bit closer to 6 laps to go next time by. Thurston still up near the wall.
And a critical point that I want to point out, as Thurston goes to the outside, Dahari was running a lane above Juergensmeyer to avoid getting aero packed, and that was hurting him in terms of being able to run optimal lap times. But now that won't matter. With this 82 now clearing in 2nd, all it takes is one good run like this to go for the lead.
Here he goes. James Thurston with the run of a lifetime off turn 4. Peaks in front, down at turn 1 on Dahari. New race leader with 6 laps to go.
But he slides up.
All the way to the wall.
Does Dahari make a retaliation move? Yes, he does. His nose is down there. Battle for the lead back to turn 3.
He was able to stay on that quarter panel, and it was just enough for Dahari to remount the challenge. The 82 thought he can slide up and still have the grip, but it just clearly wasn't the case. So right now we're going for round 2. This time not nearly as big of a run. Dahari, you see him fading down low, trying to see if he can bait him to the top, and that's exactly what he does. The 82 will run the high side. We'll see if Dahari tries to drift up in front of him or focus on getting a good exit, because that 82 is already working on that run.
Thurston has fresh tires, but Nate, you got to be careful. If you are the 82 car, you don't want to burn up your stuff and then lose out on a shot for Dahari. He's going to point to the inside, angle down low. The first time we've seen Dahari use the middle for defense, side by side. 4 laps to go.
And almost a spitting image of when those two came together earlier in this race in their battle for the lead, and we're seeing it right here at the very end of this race. Jonathan Juergensmeyer lurking in 3rd probably won't be a factor unless these leaders get together.
It's all a matter of time. 3 laps to go. At the stripe, Dahari snake trailing down the straightaway to avoid giving any lick of the draft. On the right side of your screen is where Juergensmeyer sits, as Dahari runs the first seam to 3 laps to go from Homestead, and Thurston is losing life.
he might have used up the goodie in those tires, and now it's starting to show because he's still running the top, but he's no longer making that ground. So you have to think that when he made that aggressive move to slide up, that was probably the move he had to make, and he was hoping to clear and not have to battle anymore. And you see Dahari's being aggressive, trying to break the draft because you can still get a decent tow, and at least for now, it's working for him, approaching 2 laps to go.
Final 3 miles from Homestead-Miami. If we do not get a yellow in the next lap, this race will be official. As Dahari continues to lead by 0.3 of a second behind Trails Thurston, with a chance to go at it for his second victory of the season, but he may have just gone too far. Gabriel Dahari down the back straightaway for the semi-final time.
Yeah, the sales are in the win for the 72. I think you're right. I think the 82 burned up his stuff. He's not got a whole lot left. He might be able to try a really desperate dive if he has enough momentum off of turn 2 next lap, but barring a caution in the next 5 seconds, I think this is going to go to Gabriel Dahari.
White flag from Homestead-Miami. And after a caution-filled event that was initially started off by Justin Rott, ended up in a huge crash with AJ Hyder. It broke the seas apart for Gabriel Dahari to move forward, and ever since, he has never let go of the gas pedal nor the control. And into 3 and 4 for the final time. It's going to be a second victory in his SAAC Cup Series career, and once again, it's at 1.5 miles. Checkered flag. Gabriel Dahari stands and wins at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And in the battle for the top 5, Connor Trafari beats Ethan Fonseca Moreno and is now $100 richer. Connor Trafari wins the mid-season bracket challenge. What an absolute drive by Gabriel Dahari to come away with the victory. And as James Thurston dealt his best shot, it was not enough. As he went for the slide job in 1 and 2, Dahari gave him the run-up for his money. And it's career victory number 2 for the 72 machine. Gabriel Dahari joins Connor Trafari and Ethan Fonseca Moreno as drivers this year to have more than one victory, Nate.
Yeah, it's been an exclusive list so far, but we're seeing it ease up in recent weeks, and it was a great run from Gabriel Dahari. He qualified second, notably was the fastest car all race long. Had to work through traffic to get back up there, but once he got back into position, it was pretty smooth sailing.
And no stopping Dahari from there. He had held on what was eventually 33 lap old tires on what was a 4-tire call that got him out in front. And after all the attrition and after everything that has gone down this evening, a lot of drivers will debrief for a while. Dahari will debrief and a sigh of relief as well. Career win number 2 comes here from Homestead-Miami, as we'll take a look at the full unofficial results after the 134 laps run here from virtual South Florida, where Dahari comes out on top again. Second SAAC Cup Series victory comes this year from Homestead. James Thurston, got to give him credit on the freshest tires of the field to move up as far as he did. He gave a whale of a run to Dahari in those waning laps, but he just didn't have enough to stay up front. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer comes away with a 3rd place finish, so back-to-back podiums from last night's event in 4-wide action at Richmond to tonight's action from Homestead. Connor Trafari is P4 at the checkered flag, and that is more than enough to get him the victory of the mid-season bracket challenge tonight. Right behind him is Malachi Drake at top 5, Ethan Fonseca Moreno in P6, and then right behind Andretti Robinson, Brandon Thomas survives for 8th, Ollie Reeves end up in 9th, and Gabe Cazzola, the 18th car, rounds out the top 10.
11th place will go to Donovan David, who was able to recover nicely into the top 15. Fidel Fabian will finish in the 12th spot. Larry Miles will finish in 13th. Duncan Fall will finish in the 14th spot, with Brian Lorenzo in the 15th position. Cody Riveros is able to come back for 16th after his fair share of troubles throughout the night. Wyatt Roberts will finish 17th. Amir Bascom, who ran in the top 5 for most of the second half of the race, will finish in 18th. Brad Skowinski will finish in 19th, and Michael Walls unfortunately won't finish where he was running in for most of the evening. He'll just barely round out the top 20, Nate.
Yeah, finishing 21st is Connor Zola and the 71 of Jason Rajcock. They both had a little bit of trouble. Speaking of trouble, Shockey Tarpley had a good bit of it. He finds himself in 23rd. Justin Rott, the pole sitter, finishes 24th, 14 laps down. The rest of these guys, their night ended early. Austin Duran, Luke Mahone, Juan Escamilla, Alexander Schumacher, James Bomar, and Declan George.
And then behind them in 31st, 32nd, 33rd, Steven Maggio, defending champ, had a strong car in the early stint, but things really went wrong for him very quickly. Christopher Robinson, 112 laps down in 32nd, and AJ Hyder's race ended early when he was looking for the lead underneath Justin Rott, overcorrected into the outside wall, and that was the race over for the 48 machine. He ends up as the final car in our field after 134 laps. So let's head to Homestead Victory Lane, where for the second time this season, we are joined by Gabriel Dahari. And Gabriel, what a defensive stance that was in those final few laps. You had James Thurston hounding on your tail for so long. You were able to stay up in front. What are the emotions like right now, and how hard was that challenge from Thurston to hold it off?
Man, I had like basically zero confidence I was gonna win that, John, to be quite frank with you. He was like so fast, right? Whenever he got up to second, I was like, well, maybe I can hold on to second. And then he messed up a little bit, trying to do like a slide job, I guess, and I was able to hit him with the old cutback, and that worked. Yeah, that was a crazy final run there. Wish there were more green flag runs, but I got to win, so I can't be too mad.
Definitely so, and given all that went down tonight, I mean, it was a lot of carnage. You were able to escape most of it for the most part, but it all really came down to tires. What was that mindset through this final stint where it was going to be about outlasting on the good year Eagles and how much you can keep them on, especially in that final green flag run?
Yeah, I came down lap like 100 or something, I think, and I was like, all right, dirty air is a pretty good factor around this place, and I don't think I'd be able to work my way up if I were to pit again. So I just pit lap 100, said, all right, I'm just gonna lock in. I locked in. Thurston almost got me after pitting a couple laps later, and having to work his way from the back. So those two strategies were really even, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure what other strategies went on there, but it would appear as though pitting lap 100 worked.
It all worked in your favor. Second victory of the season. Both of your W's have come at intermediate tracks. I think that there's some magic here. But Gabriel, you come into the Eliminator chase with lots of momentum on your shoulders. How do you structure your mindset for a chance at a championship when you try to beat the other 15 drivers and go for the title at Auto Club?
Yeah, I feel like intermediate tracks are my bread and butter, I guess. I feel like that's where I excel at the most. And a lot of the tracks, or well, not a lot actually. There's a couple intermediates in the chase, so I think that'll work in my favor. Yeah, there's some guys in here that are gonna be hard to beat for the championship, but I will try my best.
Well, Gabriel, was a fantastic run tonight from Homestead. It's another victory in your back pocket. You can carry that into the Eliminator chase starting 2 weeks from tonight. Before we let you bounce and continue the celebrations from South Florida, anybody that you want to shout out or thank for the run?
Shout out Steven. He was in my voice chat during the race. Shout out all the admins in SAAC for keeping everyone in line. Shout out Cody for keeping the show going. Shout out you guys for broadcasting these past 2 days. There's been so many cautions. I'm sure that's not very fun, but shout out you guys.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, Gabriel, and as always, we appreciate the time as well. Congratulations on the victory from Homestead-Miami. We'll see you in the other 15 fighting for the championship 2 weeks from tonight, and hopefully the build goes well for you as well, and you get to enjoy all the new content.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Gabriel Dahari wins tonight from Homestead-Miami Speedway. We'll turn to the third place driver, as I do not believe we have a word with James Thurston, who ends up finishing runner-up in tonight's race. But nonetheless, we do have the next driver in line. That is Jonathan Juergensmeyer. And Nate, you've got him.
Jared, congratulations on a great top three tonight, back-to-back podium based off of yesterday's four-wide race as well. And you were up front for a lot of this one. Take me through what you were doing all night tonight.
I mean, mostly I'm just up front. I had a lot of those incidents. I mean, a lot of those incidents were just behind me. I didn't really see a lot of them, but yeah, once I got up front, it's just maintaining track position and grinding out those restarts. Those restarts were really they were a huge grind. It was really tough. I picked the bottom almost every restart because the top was not really going at all. So that did gain me a lot of spots, but I mean, I really had nothing for Gabriel. I was on older tires than everyone. Me and Micah were on a different strategy than everyone else, so we stayed out and we were on older tires. And yeah, Thurston kind of blew by us, and Gabriel was just so much quicker than me. I tried plenty times trying to get that clean air, but I just had nothing for him. He was just really quick. So yeah, third is really nice. Just having a lot of momentum right now. Yeah, nice going in the playoffs.
And it was a hot track tonight. I think the track temp got as hot as 113 degrees. You've said in the past that you like a hot and slick track. Do you think that factored into your success tonight?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a lot of guys getting loose. Especially out of 2 and out of 4. There was so many mistakes that I was seeing all day, and I don't really think I made one of them. I think I was in good control of my car, and it felt really fun to drive actually, compared to cold track where I feel like I'd just be plowing tight the entire time. It just felt really nice to drive all day with the track being track being hot.
And you were painting the white line as well the entire race. How much discipline does that take to go to the bottom lap after lap, especially when you see guys chasing you down on the front and back straightaway but they're coming off the top?
I mean, it's honestly one of the hardest things on iRacing to stay on the bottom in those situations because, I mean, it's a train up there. Once trying to pass that train on the top, it's so hard, and it's so hard to not go up there and kill your tires yourself. So just being patient, it usually works out. And I mean, a lot of the times with those trains on the top, especially today, there was in turns 3 and 4, there's a lot of aero packing going on, especially in 3 and 4 on the top. So I avoided a lot of that. There's probably 3 crashes just above me from people aero packing. So just avoided all that. And yeah.
And before we let you head out of here, is there anyone you'd like to shout out and thank for your run tonight?
Shout out to all the guys we're working with. Working with Mike all race. Working with Gabriel a little bit on the restarts, and Gabe and Justin. Poor Justin got killed after having a good qualifying. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you, Nate. Shout out to BBR, KBRN, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and congrats on a great run tonight.
Yep, thanks.
That's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who ends up top 3 tonight from Homestead-Miami. We are still not able to get word with James Thurston, but credit to him on his fresh tire call to charge up to the field. Gave Dahari a run for his money and a run for the win, but just did not have enough. He falls 8/10 behind and finishes P2. So as we move forward in this SAAC Cup Series season, now it's basically postseason time, Nate. We're going to head into that eliminator chase format that starts 2 weeks from tonight at the virtual Darlington Raceway. They are giving 1 week off next week for the opening of the new iRacing Season 4 2025 build. So that will be a little bit of time for all these guys to decompress. They will have a little bit of a showdown at Slinger Speedway. So it'll be fun to see what they do then, having some fun at that point. But now things get serious. 16 drivers are in, and now they'll fight for the ultimate prize.
You've got some tough tracks on the docket, and it doesn't get any tougher than where we're going to go for the next points-paying event at Darlington Raceway. The Lady in Black, it's the track Too Tough to Tame, and you saw this past Sunday, the stars of the NASCAR Cup Series and the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs struggled to tame it, so it'll certainly be a challenge for these guys in 2 weeks.
It will be. Then we move on to a brand new, refreshed New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We'll push forward to the season. We've got Road America in the middle of this group, so a road course smack dab in the middle of this eliminator chase. Bristol Motor Speedway, Chicagoland, and then of course we'll close out our season in Southern California at the Virtual Auto Club Speedway. Lives forever on the sim, and it'll be a fantastic finale. Just a recap on the points cut line. It appears that basically all of these names, for the most part, have made it through, apart from Brad Sawinski and Nicholas Baumann, who were below the cut line going into this race. That is where they will stay. Sawinski ends up minus 29 to the cut line, so he will miss out on the eliminator chase. Same deal for Baumann, who missed out on the activities tonight. He is minus 44 now from that red cut line, and that does leave the three that were nearly at mercy of being bounced out: Larry Miles, Shockey Tarpley, Amir Bascom. They will all make the transition into the eliminator chase, and the same goes for Indianapolis's Trevor Haley, who also missed out on the race tonight from Homestead, but he will have enough points to secure a spot in the mix. So what a race it was from Homestead-Miami, and an outstanding job by Gabriel Dahari to maintain, despite all of the pressure from the back and everyone else on the fresh tires. Dahari ends up with his second SAAC Cup Series victory, and it happens here at another 1.5 miles from this time Homestead-Miami Speedway. So that'll do it for our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network as Dahari wins it from South Florida. That'll do it for us. On behalf of Cody Riveris and the entire admin team and council at the SAAC Cup Series, and for all the wonderful people at the KBueno Racing Network that make these shows possible. For Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, and for my lovely crew on the show tonight, my colleagues Francisco Bacallao and Nate Polite, I am Kenneth Bueno saying so long from South Florida, but we'll be back in just a moment because the KBueno post-race show starts next. Homestead-Miami was certainly a big challenge, and yeah, we're ready to debrief it all. It was quite the race, lots of yellows, differing strategies, and ultimately the dominant driver of the day ends up as the winner. Welcome to our KBueno post-race show as we try to wrap up things from virtual Homestead-Miami. Kenneth Bueno alongside Nate Polite as we close down race 12 of the SAAC Cup Series. And Nate, just briefly, I mean, what a race it was, kind of in a way, lots of circumstances where drivers found trouble, and we covered it all night long, but what a stand-up show for Gabriel Dahari to hold on the old tires and even deal with a slide job from James Thurston in those final laps to win.
Yeah, it was certainly impressive. It's always tough when you've got the dominant car in a race full of cautions, because you know you're fastest, and you know if the track just stays green for the rest of the night, you're gonna walk home with the win. But you're being tested every 10, 20. In this case, it seemed like every 5 laps. Gabriel Dahari had to hold off the rest of the field on a restart, and the rest of the field did not make it easy on him. We saw several times, whether it was Juergensmeyer or Walls or somebody else, would get to him on a restart, and nobody gave him a better fight than James Thurston all night long.
And this was the challenge for the lead that ultimately went back in Dahari's favor. A slide job in 1 and 2, skidded up too high near the wall. Inside went Dahari, and right there on the back end of the speedway in 3 and 4 is exactly where Dahari, the Texan, was able to make his move, get back down underneath James Thurston, and just pull away for the rest of the route. We kind of argued between ourselves, Nate, alongside Francisco, that was the only shot that Thurston had. Used up his tires too much, and that was all she wrote.
I was convinced that he was going to be able to gather it back up for one last run, but then at about the 2.5 lap to go point, it was like he's too far back. His only shot would have been to get a lot of momentum and throw a slide job, because it can take you a couple of laps to complete a pass, especially in the next gen car here at Homestead, and he certainly did attempt to throw a slide job in the final corner of this race.
And this was the finish by 0.8 of a second. Gabriel Dahari is able to win the race, but right behind is where you find Connor Trafari, who at the end of this race ends up with a top 5 and is the winner of the mid-season bracket challenge. So even if he's not in victory lane at the end of a race, Connor Trafari is still finding a way to be that top dog at the end of it. So Connor Trafari
And it feels amazing, especially with like the circumstances I had to go through for this race. Not even before it started, I had to run from my setup with about 15 minutes left to my campus, like esports lab, because they got a sim right there, and I was able to do the race from there because I've been having a lot of internet issues this last week, so it's really I couldn't even really practice without kicking me back to the pits. So just to start the race with that was kind of crazy. And then I think halfway through or so, Dahari kind of lost it, went to the wall, and I ran to the back of him. That gave me about like 3.5 minutes of damage. So I was, man, I was really up and down for sure. And then some tire strategy at the end got me back up there with Moreno and was able to hold him off.
It was a crazy race for you because, you know, you had to finish second here. Last time we were at Homestead back in Season 3, it looked like at the start of this race it was going to be that same kind of story, right? You're running up front, doing well. All of a sudden, you get involved in several crashes, and you have to spend a lot of this time repairing the car. What kept you in this race when things looked pretty bleak, especially through midway?
Really just the possibility of winning $100, honestly. I mean, I just kind of kept my eyes on Moreno, Cody, and Ollie the whole night. Because I really couldn't make much headway in the regular season points to begin with. I was kind of like locked down on where everyone was. So really, I was just kind of focused on that. I knew I kind of had a chance after all those cautions came out back to back to back to where I was able to get most of that damage fixed. But I knew something else I had to do something alternate from everyone else because there's no way you can pass 20 cars at Homestead with all this dirty air, you know.
That's definitely true. And if you have Ethan Fonseca Moreno on your rear bumper, that's not entirely a slouch at all. That's a great driver in this series who's won 4 races already and could easily give you a challenge whenever. What was that mindset like in trying to hold him off? I know Malachi Drake was in the middle, so you had a bit of that buffer, but how stressful was it trying to keep Moreno at bay?
Oh, incredibly, man. Even on fresher tires I knew he would pull something, you know. Because multiple times, even in past races, he would just send it up the inside and somehow make it stick and be on your door. You know, you never really knew with him. So I just try to keep on, we're in the top line there, get the best exits I could. And just try to dump all the air I could on his front nose and just try to give him as much of a buffer as I could. Once I got by, I think Malachi with like 3 to go or so, that definitely helped out for sure. But you're never safe with Moreno behind you.
Never safe at all, but you were just in the right place at the right time. You made use of the opportunity, and you end up with the $100 in the midseason bracket challenge win. We have to ask you this. We're going to ask anybody this if they win a cash prize. It's just typical of broadcasters. What are you going to do with the $100?
I don't know. Either food or getting a damn Wi-Fi router for my computer. I don't know, either or. But probably food, if I gotta be honest.
What type of food though? Are we talking fast food? Or are we talking a nice gourmet meal? What's on the menu?
Probably just like a bunch of groceries, honestly. I mean, you know, I gotta make the money last, you know.
That's good. That's always good to invest in and spend on what you need. Connor, we really appreciate the time. Congratulations on winning the midseason bracket challenge for the Season 4 SAAC Cup Series, and we know you'll be fighting for a championship in 2 weeks' time, so hopefully things go well at Darlington when we see you next.
Thanks. See y'all then.
Connor Trafari ends up position number 4 in this race. That's more than enough to get him the midseason bracket challenge victory. And with that, we continue forward on our post-race show. Nate, what a drive by Connor Trafari in general, just to be able to hold on. And, you know, like he told us then, it was that chance at winning the $100. That was more than enough motivation that he needed to stay up at the front, keep himself in that race, and he's rewarded 10 times for it.
Yeah, and it's a lot different than what he told us last week because, of course, he had a really similar race last damage at about the midway. Had to rally. Last week he said that he was just kind of there because he was there. That's why he said he stayed in it, and he ended up winning the race. This time he said, there was $100 in front of me. I was going to stay here no matter what.
It's all about the money. You know what they say, dollar bills, y'all. It's all what drives everything, and for Connor Trafari, it drove him tonight to be able to finish in the top 5. And not only is it the $100 that he gets for winning the bracket challenge, it's another good finish in points. It's going to give him a bit of a buffer in this eliminator chase format that does reward full consistency. It's not a typical win and you're in playoff system like you see with NASCAR stock car racing these days in real life and in a lot of leagues across the iRacing sphere. You've got to be the best in points as they whittle down through all of the rounds. That starts at the virtual Darlington Raceway next week. Well, we mentioned some good storylines for not only Gabriel Dehari and for Connor Trafari, but on the other end of things, not a great race for AJ Hyder, winner from Iowa this season, who crashed early on looking for the lead. And Steven Maggio, defending champion who was looking to strike gold or at least do well tonight, ended up in a crash, picked up suspension damage, and he was out of the race. But the frustration for Maggio sets in much earlier than what we've seen tonight. It's almost been happening all season long despite some of the best runs he's had in 2025. Two Toyotas down the first 2 rows of the inside lane, a big time checkup and a crash. Steven Maggio, Gabriel Dehari spin off of the checkup as they were coming to the restart. Absolute chaos.
I don't know if you want to know my honest feelings right now. Just can't stop getting wrecked. It's extremely frustrating. Someone did it last season to me in the All-Star race where they stayed out on old tires and they wrecked me. I'm just kind of over it at this point.
There's a look at the last 4 races for the Cairo, New York native, and a lot of it seems well. Everything highlighted in blue, they're all top 3 finishes. He was 31st at Talladega, but that's what happens at Talladega, right? You can end up in a crash and anything could happen. But to note tonight, it's also 31st from Homestead-Miami, so it feels like for Maggio, either it's a top 3 or top 31.
Yeah, and obviously incredibly frustrating to get so close to winning and to have the circumstances that he's been in. I mean, look at last week at Phoenix. He was the defending winner at the track. He was sitting on pole and he looped it coming out of turn 2 on the first lap of the race, so he didn't even really have a chance to prove the speed that he had. He ended up finishing 3rd, rallying back, but it almost makes you wonder what could have been, and that's an extremely frustrating thing to go through as a driver, is to look at one race as what could have been, but then you extrapolate it to the whole season of, wow. You know, I mean, he's 4th in points coming into the eliminator chase, and he's led the points at points this season. So he's not having a bad season whatsoever, and I wouldn't even say he's having a bad season by his standards, but by the standards that he set for himself, by what he has seen he's almost gotten, is what's going to make it extra frustrating. He's got to find a way to channel that frustration into just that last inch that he's been missing this season.
And this is what derailed him on the back straightaway early in this race. It was a crash down the back straightaway involving Andretti Robinson, and it got the left side tire of Maggio's Toyota Camry. That's what initially set him off, but he made contact coming down pit road with a car in front of him, so that's what really just set him in. Maggio spent a ton of time down pit road, and unfortunately, it was really not enough to get him back into the race. 31st is where he will end up. But like you said, Nate, he's one of the best drivers of the series still. He's top 5 in points. He's got a chance to win the championship again. And like we saw last year, you just got to be good at the right time. Maggio had swept the last 2 races at Phoenix and at Las Vegas to come away with the title. It could happen again in SAAC Cup Series history, but it really just hasn't been that most positive season that Maggio has been looking forward to, at least as far as the regular season is concerned, that's for sure. But let's take one last look at the schedule before we wrap up our KBRN post-race show. Everything highlighted in yellow on the right side of your screen. Those are the Eliminator Chase races. We start from Darlington. We end up in New Hampshire. We go road course racing at Road America, then on to Bristol, Chicagoland, and Auto Club Speedway. Nate, lots of diversity across this mini Eliminator Chase schedule, but any tracks that particularly stick out to you apart from that opener from Darlington?
Yeah, you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Of course, a road course is going to shake things up, but I look at those last 2 races. Those are 2 intermediates. Of course, Auto Club Speedway is larger than Chicagoland Speedway, but intermediates generally tend to have the same cast of characters that run up front, and specifically Chicagoland, it in the real world raced a lot like Miami when the Cup Series used to go there, and perhaps will when they go back there this coming season, where you can run everywhere on the track. It's progressively banked. I said on the race today, you can get up to 7 different lanes through the corner, even if you can only fit maybe 5 cars wide on the racetrack. So I would look at that one to set up the championship at Auto Club to really kind of see who is going to be the favorite, because it's similar to Miami and it's again similar to Auto Club as well.
We've had a lot of chaos tonight from Homestead, but lots of other tracks that could either amp up the intensity or create some really good racing, so you really won't want to miss it. We'll be taking a little bit of a break next week as the iRacing Season 4 2025 build kicks in, so that means no 4-wide racing at Nashville Superspeedway on September 10th. There will be a showdown at Slinger Speedway next week on September 11th, but we will not go regular season or normal season racing until the Eliminator Chase starts the following week and September 18th at Darlington Raceway, so we hope you join us then. But still more action to go on the KBueno Racing Network on the Monday before the build comes around. Next week, we will have coverage from Charlotte Motor Speedway for another edition of the KBRN Truck Series. My good friend Nate and our good friend Francisco Bacallao will be on the call for that. I will trade the headset for the steering wheel. Hopefully it ends up with a good finish and I actually clear my probation that I got from Rockingham Speedway. We'll talk about those details later. But until then, that does it for us at the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. For our KBRN post-race show, a huge thank you to you for watching through all this time and through all of our interviews. Huge shout out to Cody Riveras and the league owner for putting everything on at the SAAC Cup Series. And for everyone at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, for my colleagues in the booth as well, Francisco Bacallao, and my good friend Nate Polite. I am Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Homestead. We'll see you when the Eliminator Chase starts from Darlington Raceway. But until then, Gabriel Dehari, the race winner, and Connor Trafari, $100 richer.